Welcome to the sanctuary of the mind, a place where the noise of the waking world fades into a distant, harmless hum. Here, in the velvet embrace of this moment, there is no urgency, no expectation, and no time. There is only the steady, rhythmic tide of your own breath, rising and falling like a gentle ocean against a shore of soft white sand. Allow your eyes to close, or perhaps simply soften your gaze, letting the heavy curtains of relaxation drape over your vision. Feel the weight of your body sinking deeper into the surface beneath you, as if gravity has become a warm, comforting blanket, holding you safe, holding you still. You are lighter now, unburdened by the gravity of the day, preparing to lift off into the boundless theatre of the night sky. We are travellers, you and I, voyagers of the imagination, drifting upward through the ceiling, through the clouds, and into the vast, silent cathedral of the cosmos. It is quiet here, a silence so profound, so pure, that it feels like a cool liquid soothing your thoughts. Around you, the stars are not distant points of cold light, but warm, flickering lanterns hanging in an infinite dark hallway. We are here to witness the silent majesty of our solar neighbourhood, to float alongside the giants and the dwarfs, the burning and the frozen, learning their secrets not through textbooks, but through the feeling of presence. Let your mind become as vast as the space we traverse. Let your curiosity be the engine that propels us forward, slow and steady, into the great starry deep. Imagine yourself floating now, weightless and free, approaching the centre of our celestial family. Before us lies the great burning heart of the solar system, the sun. But we stop just short of its overwhelming brilliance, hovering in the shadow of the first world, the swift and silent traveller known as Mercury. Here, on this small cratered sphere, we witness a world of stark and beautiful dualities. Because this planet possesses almost no atmosphere to hold or distribute heat, it exists in a state of permanent dramatic contrast. Picture yourself protected in a bubble of safety, gliding over the Terminator line, the border between day and night. On one side, the surface is bathed in searing, blinding white light, heated to temperatures that would melt lead instantly, a testament to the raw power of the star it circles so frantically. Yet, as we drift merely a few miles across the grey, rocky terrain into the shadow, the temperature plummets instantly into a deep, freezing cold, far colder than the most bitter winter night on Earth. This world does not know the comfort of a twilight or the softness of a breeze. It knows only the furnace and the freezer. The surface below you looks ancient, scarred by billions of years of cosmic impacts, resembling a deep grey charcoal drawing of cliffs and valleys. It is a world of silence. Without air to carry sound, the impact of a falling stone would make no noise. It is a place of stillness and extremes, a small, heavy rock that rushes through the dark, holding the secret of fire on one face and the secret of ice on the other, spinning slowly, so slowly that a single day here lasts longer than a year. Leaving the scorched grey rock behind, we let the cosmic current carry us outward, away from the sun, toward a jewel wrapped in thick, mysterious veils. We approach Venus. From a distance, it appears as a perfect, flawless pearl, glowing with a brilliant, creamy yellow light that outshines the stars around it. It is the most beautiful deception in the heavens. As we drift closer, we realise that we cannot see the surface at all. We are looking at a blanket of clouds so dense, so unbroken, that they have hidden the planet's face for eons. These aren't clouds of water mist like the ones that drift over green hills back home. These are heavy, reflective layers of sulfuric acid and carbon dioxide spinning rapidly around the planet, driven by winds that never cease. Visualize yourself descending slowly into this golden fog. The light here is diffuse and strange, like an eternal overcast afternoon in a sepia photograph. This thick atmosphere creates a crushing embrace, a pressure so intense it would feel like standing a mile deep beneath the ocean. It acts as a trap for heat, catching the sun's warmth and refusing to let it go, creating a runaway greenhouse effect that makes this the hottest planetary surface in our system, even hotter than Mercury, despite being further away. It is a world wrapped in a heavy, sweltering blanket, where the heat radiates from the rocks themselves, glowing dimly in the gloom. It is a cautionary tale of trapped energy, a beautiful, hostile gem that shines brightly in the morning sky, whispering of the power of the air itself. Drifting away from the golden haze, we turn our gaze toward a sight that brings an immediate sense of calm and recognition. Floating in the black void is a marble of swirling blue and white, a miraculous oasis of colour against the emptiness. This is Earth, the water planet. From this vantage point, high above the frantic pace of humanity, you can truly appreciate why it is called the Blue Planet. It is the only world we know where liquid water flows freely on the surface, catching the sunlight and scattering it back into space in a spectrum of azure, indigo and turquoise. Imagine the peace of looking down at the Pacific Ocean, a single body of water so vast it covers almost half the globe. You can see the delicate, lace-like patterns of clouds drifting lazily over the oceans, casting moving shadows on the water below. There are no borders visible from here, no divisions, only the brown and green continents resting like islands in the great global sea. The atmosphere is not a heavy trap like Venus, but a thin, fragile halo of glowing blue, a delicate shell that protects all known life. It breathes. You can almost feel the planet inhaling and exhaling with the changing seasons, the ice caps pulsing at the poles like a slow heartbeat. It is a rare and precious jewel, wet and alive, spinning silently in the dark, a sanctuary of liquid stability in a universe of chaos. Orbiting this blue oasis, we find its silent silver companion. We drift toward the moon, a celestial body that has watched over the Earth since the dawn of memory. As we float near its surface, we notice something profound about its relationship with our home world. It never turns its back. The moon is tidally locked to Earth, meaning it rotates on its axis at the exact same speed that it orbits us. It is a cosmic dance of perfect synchronization, ensuring that the same face, the man in the moon, is always looking down upon us. Picture the surface here, covered in a fine, powdery dust called regolith, the result of billions of years of micrometeoroid impacts pulverizing the rock. It is a landscape of greys and whites, stark and beautiful in its desolation. There is no wind to disturb the dust, no rain to wash it away. Footprints left here will remain for millions of years, frozen in time. As you float over the vast dark plains of cooled lava, the Maria, or seas, as ancient astronomers called them, you feel the profound stillness of a world that has quieted its geological heart. It acts as a stabilizer for Earth, its gravity gripping our oceans to create the tides, a gentle, rhythmic pulling that mimics the breath of the sleeper. It is a faithful guardian, scarred and silent, holding its gaze steady forever. We push outward now, leaving the blue and silver dance behind, travelling toward a rusty glow in the distance. We arrive at Mars, the red planet. As we descend toward the surface, the colour fills your vision, not the angry red of blood, but the soft, earthy tone of dried clay, of canyon walls, of rust. This colour comes from iron oxide, the same chemical reaction that turns old metal orange on Earth. The very dust of this planet is rusted, blowing across vast deserts and global storms that can hide the entire world from view. Imagine standing on a dune in this alien desert. The sky above is not blue, but a dusty pink during the day, fading to a soft blue only near the setting sun. It is a cold desert, a place where ancient rivers once flowed, carving deep channels that still scar the surface today. You drift over the Valles Marineras, a canyon system so massive it would stretch across the entire United States, a gash in the planet's crust that makes the Grand Canyon look like a mere scratch. and looming in the distance is Olympus Mons, a volcano so colossal its peak pierces the thin atmosphere, standing 3 times taller than Everest. It is a quiet world now, a place of frozen memories and red dust, waiting in the silence, a rusty monument to a watery past that has long since evaporated into the stars. Moving beyond the red horizon of Mars, we enter a region of scattered debris, a vast, sparse river of stone known as the asteroid belt. Contrary to the chaotic scenes in movies, this is not a crowded field of dodging rocks, but a lonely, expansive sea where the islands are millions of miles apart. We drift through the emptiness, occasionally passing a tumbling erratic stone, grey and pitted, remnants of a planet that never was. These are the leftovers of creation, the building blocks that Jupiter's gravity prevented from coalescing into a world. Focus your mind on Ceres, the queen of this belt, a dwarf planet nestled among the stones. It is a dark, spherical world, speckled with mysterious bright spots of salt that glint like diamonds in the gloom. It is a lonely outpost, a bridge between the rocky inner worlds we have just left and the gas giants that lie ahead. Drifting here feels like floating in a vast, calm ocean, with only the occasional piece of driftwood passing by in the dark water. The silence here is deeper, the sun smaller, a distant bright star that provides light but little heat. It is the boundary line, the threshold of the solar system, a quiet zone of separation before the true giants reveal themselves. Crossing the threshold of stones, we see it rising before us, the king of planets. Jupiter is so massive that it defies comprehension. It is a world not of rock and solid ground, but of liquid and gas. A colossal sphere of swirling clouds that could swallow all the other planets combined and still have room to spare. As we approach, the visual texture of the planet becomes mesmerizing. It is painted in bands of cream, burnt orange, brown and white, stripes that run parallel to the equator, driven by jet streams moving at hundreds of miles per hour. Imagine floating into the upper atmosphere. There is no surface to land on here, only an endless descent into denser and denser clouds. The gravity is immense, a heavy hand that holds dozens of moons in its grip, creating a miniature solar system of its own. You're looking at a ball of primordial gas, mostly hydrogen and helium, the same stuff that makes up the sun. In a way, Jupiter is a failed star, a giant that never quite ignited, remaining forever a dark, swirling storm of gas. The sheer scale of it offers a strange comfort. It acts as a shield for the inner solar system, its massive gravity catching comets and asteroids that might otherwise threaten Earth. It is the great protector, a striped sentinel spinning rapidly in the cold dark, watching over the family of planets. On the face of this striped giant, there is an eye that stares back at the cosmos. We drift closer to witness the great red spot. It is a storm, an anticyclonic vortex that has been raging for at least 300 years, perhaps much longer. It is a hurricane of such magnitude that 3 Earths could fit comfortably inside its boundaries. The colour is a deep, rich crimson, contrasting sharply with the pale white clouds that flow around it. Visualize the slow, majestic rotation of this storm. Unlike the frantic, short-lived hurricanes of Earth, this is a stable, enduring feature, a permanent churn in the atmosphere. The winds at its edge scream at incredible speeds, yet from our high vantage point, it looks like a slow-motion mixing of paint. It is a storm of high pressure, rising up above the surrounding cloud decks like a plateau of gas. Watching it spin is hypnotic, a wheel of red mist turning forever. It reminds us of the turbulence of nature, yet its longevity brings a sense of peace. A reminder that even the wildest storms can find a balance, finding a rhythm that lasts for centuries, spinning silently in the vacuum of space. Leaving the giant Jupiter behind, we drift further into the twilight to behold the jewel of the solar system. Saturn awaits us, a vision of ethereal beauty that seems too perfect to be real. It is a gas giant, pale gold and beige, calming to the eye, but it is defined by its crown, the magnificent system of rings that encircle it. From afar, the rings look like solid discs of colourful plastic, smooth and unbroken. But as we float closer, the illusion dissolves into a shimmering river of particles. These rings are not solid at all, but are made of billions of individual pieces of water ice, ranging in size from tiny grains of sand to boulders as large as houses. Imagine floating among them. It is a glittering dance of ice, reflecting the distant sunlight like a field of crushed diamonds. They are incredibly thin, perhaps only 30 feet thick in places, yet they stretch out for hundreds of thousands of miles. As you drift above the plane of the rings, watching the shadow of the planet cast a long, dark arm across the ice, you feel a sense of fragile elegance. The ice chunks tumble and collide in slow motion, a silent, sparkling river flowing around the golden planet, a halo of winter held in suspension by gravity's invisible hand. Drifting from the rings up toward the North Pole of Saturn, we encounter a mystery of geometry in a world of fluids. Here, the clouds do not swirl in circles or chaotic spirals, but form a perfect sharp-edged hexagon. It is a six-sided storm of immense proportions, wide enough to swallow the Earth twice over. The colours here shift to deep blues and teals, a cooler palette than the rest of the golden world. Visualise looking down from directly above the pole. You see the straight lines of the cloud barriers, meeting at distinct angles, rotating in perfect unison. It is as if a giant hand has drawn a geometric shape onto the atmosphere. At the very centre is a massive rotating vortex, the eye of the hexagon. It is a reminder that nature loves order, that even in the fluid dynamics of a gas giant, structure emerges. The hexagon spins slowly, a mathematical wonder in the cold dark, turning like a great cosmic mechanism. It is soothing to watch the precision of it, the way the chaos of the gas organises itself into something so structured, so predictable, rotating endlessly in the quiet solitude of the outer solar system. From the mesmerising precision of Saturn's geometric storm, we allow our gaze to drift outward, floating through the plane of rings toward a hazy orange sphere that hangs heavy in the distance. We approach Titan, the giant moon that feels less like a satellite and more like a planet in its own right. As we draw closer, the golden orb completely fills your vision, opaque and mysterious. Unlike the barren, cratered moons we have seen before, Titan is wrapped in a thick, suffocating blanket of atmosphere, a dense smog of nitrogen and organic molecules that hides its surface from the naked eye. It is the only moon in the solar system with air thick enough to walk through, a hazy amber envelope that scatters the weak sunlight into a perpetual gloomy twilight. Imagine descending through this thick orange fog. You drift down, lighter than a feather, buoyed by the low gravity and the dense air. As the haze clears near the ground, a landscape reveals itself that is eerily familiar, yet fundamentally alien. You see rivers winding through hills, flowing into vast, calm lakes. But this is not water. The temperature here is hundreds of degrees below zero. These are seas of liquid methane and ethane, slow-moving and oily, lapping gently against shores of frozen water ice that is as hard as granite. Picture standing on the edge of the Kraken Mare, the largest of these seas. The waves here move slowly, in a languid, dreamlike rhythm, rising and falling in silence. It is a world of pauses, where the rain falls in large, slow drops, painting the dark ground with liquid natural gas, a chemical garden sleeping in the deep freeze of the outer system. Leaving the orange mists of Titan, we glide along the orbital path to a smaller, brighter wonder, a moon of pure, blinding white. We find Enceladus. It is a small world, a mere marble compared to Titan, but it holds a secret that makes it shimmer with life and energy. The surface is the brightest in the solar system, a shell of fresh, clean ice that reflects almost all the sunlight that touches it. It is a winter wonderland of smooth plains and craggy fractures, gleaming against the black backdrop of space. but it is the southern pole that draws us in, where the ice is scarred by long, deep fissures known as tiger stripes, glowing with a faint warmth against the utter cold. Visualize yourself hovering silently above these great cracks in the ice. Suddenly the silence is broken by a majestic display of nature's power. Jets of water vapor and ice particles erupt from the surface, shooting hundreds of miles into space. These are the cryovolcanoes of Enceladus, geysers powered by the immense gravitational squeezing of Saturn. They spray a fine mist of water from a hidden subsurface ocean, an underground sea that wraps around the entire moon beneath the ice shell. As you float through this ethereal plume, you're touched by the breath of a hidden ocean, tiny crystals of salt water dancing around you like diamond dust, some falling back to coat the moon in fresh snow, others escaping to form a faint ghostly ring around Saturn itself. It is a testament to hidden depths, a reminder that even in the coldest reaches, there is warmth and movement waiting to be found. We release ourselves from Saturn's gravity now, allowing the cosmic current to carry us deeper into the dark, across a vast gulf of emptiness that separates the Lords of the Rings from the ice giants. The sun becomes smaller, a brilliant piercing star rather than a burning disk. Ahead of us, a pale, cyan orb grows in the darkness. We have arrived at Uranus. It is a world of softness, a featureless ball of aquamarine that looks like a drop of frozen water suspended in the void. The colour is soothing, a cool greenish-blue hue caused by methane in the atmosphere absorbing the red light of the distant sun. It feels still here, quiet, a sleepy giant resting in the shadows. But as we observe this cyan world, we notice its most unique and disorienting quality. It is rolling. Unlike all the other planets that spin like tops, Uranus spins on its side, rolling along its orbital path like a ball. Imagine the strangeness of the seasons here. Because of this extreme tilt, the poles point directly at the sun for decades at a time. If you were floating above the summer pole, you would see the sun circling the sky, never setting, for 42 Earth years. It is a world of eternal days followed by eternal nights, a slow, generational rhythm of light and dark. Drifting past it feels like watching a sleeping god turn over in a long dream, rotating with a sluggish, hypnotic grace that defies the logic of the rest of the solar system, a lonely rebel spinning to its own silent rhythm. Orbiting this toppled giant, we find a collection of dark, charcoal-coloured moons, and among them is a fractured world that defies explanation. We approach Miranda. It is a small moon, but it looks as though it has been shattered and pieced back together by a hurried sculptor. The landscape is a chaotic jumble of mismatched terrains, smooth plains abutting jagged canyons, cratered highlands merging with grooved valleys. It is a patchwork quilt of ice and rock, a physical memory of a violent past where the moon may have been smashed apart by a collision and then pulled itself back together by its own gravity. Picture yourself drifting toward the edge of Verona Rupes, the crowning feature of this scarred world. It is a cliff, but to call it a cliff is an understatement. It is a vertical drop of over 12 miles, the tallest cliff in the known solar system. If you were to drop a stone from the top, it would take over 10 minutes to hit the bottom. Imagine the sensation of falling in the low gravity, floating slowly down the face of this icy precipice, watching the layers of geological history pass you by. It is a place of vertigo and awe, a sheer wall of ice standing silent in the dark, a monument to the chaotic forces that shape the heavens. It feels ancient and broken, a rugged, silent witness to the history of the outer realm. We drift away from the chaotic cliffs and move further out, to the very edge of the planetary realm. The cyan fades and is replaced by a deep, rich azure. We approach Neptune, the windiest world we have ever known. The colour here is striking, a vivid electric blue that seems to glow from within. It is not the pale softness of Uranus, but a deep oceanic saturation, profound and intense. This planet is a dynamic, turbulent sphere, far more active than its twin. Even from space you can sense the energy coiling beneath the cloud tops, a restless churning of the atmosphere fueled by an internal heat source that science is still trying to understand. Imagine descending into the upper atmosphere of this blue giant. You're immediately caught in a jet stream of terrifying power. The winds here whip around the planet at supersonic speeds, faster than the speed of sound on Earth, reaching over 1,000 miles per hour. Yet, in our dream state, the wind does not tear at us. It carries us. We flow with the currents, sliding effortlessly through the frozen clouds. You see the great dark spot, a storm system the size of Earth, appearing as a hole in the blue atmosphere, a swirling vortex of darker indigo. It is a fleeting feature, appearing and disappearing over years, a ghost storm in a sea of wind. Being here feels like being in the heart of a deep ocean current, surrounded by the rush of fluid, a world of pure motion and deep, cold blue. As we sink deeper into the imagination of these ice giants, both Uranus and Neptune, we encounter a phenomenon that happens far below the clouds, in the crushing darkness of the mantle. Here, thousands of miles beneath the tops of the clouds, the pressure and temperature rise to unimaginable levels. The atmosphere of hydrogen and helium thickens into a hot, dense fluid of water, ammonia, and methane. In this crushing embrace, the carbon atoms from the methane are squeezed so tightly that they separate and crystallize. Visualize this slow, magical process in the dark heart of the planet. It is raining diamonds. Millions of tiny diamonds, glistening and perfect, form in the slushy ice mantle and slowly sink toward the core like heavy sparkling rain. Imagine being suspended in this thick, dark ocean, watching the glitter of falling gems, a shower of wealth that no human hand will ever touch. They drift down through the layers, accumulating around the rocky core, potentially forming a layer of solid diamond miles thick. It is a secret opulence hidden beneath the storm clouds, a silent, glittering treasure room protected by crushing gravity and freezing winds, a testament to the alchemical power of pressure. Emerging from the depths of the diamond rain, we return to the black vacuum and turn our attention to Neptune's largest companion. We approach Triton, a moon that shouldn't be there. It is a wanderer, a captured soul. Unlike the other major moons of the solar system that orbit in the same direction as their planet spins, Triton moves in retrograde, the opposite direction. It is a rebellious motion, suggesting that this world was once a dwarf planet wandering the Kuiper belt before it was snagged by Neptune's gravity. It is a world of cold pinks and browns, covered in a frost of nitrogen and methane. Picture the surface of this captured world. It is incredibly cold, one of the coldest places we have ever touched, where the air itself freezes and falls as snow. But looking across the cantaloupe terrain, a landscape of bubbly melon skin ridges, we see movement. Dark streaks paint the icy ground. These are plumes from cryovolcanoes, but unlike Enceladus, these spew nitrogen gas and dust. The weak sun warms the nitrogen ice just enough to build pressure, and it bursts through the crust, shooting geysers 5 miles high into the thin atmosphere. The winds carry the dark dust across the pink ice, creating long black smudges that point like weather vanes. It is a quiet, frozen landscape that is slowly evaporating, a captured king slowly spiraling inward toward its doom, beautiful and tragic in its retrograde dance. We drift past the orbit of Neptune, crossing the invisible boundary that marks the end of the major planets. We enter the twilight zone, the realm of the dwarfs. Ahead of us, a small reddish-white world spins in the vast emptiness. We have reached Pluto. For so long a mystery, a pixelated blur, it is now revealed as a world of stunning complexity. It is not a dead rock, but a vibrant, geologically active world. The most striking feature calls out to us immediately, a vast, bright, plane shaped perfectly like a heart. Focus your mind on this heart, known as Tombor Regio. The western lobe is a giant glacier of nitrogen ice, smooth and unblemished by craters. It is alive. The ice here flows like a slow river, churning and overturning over millions of years, erasing the scars of the past. Imagine standing on the edge of this white glacier, looking out toward mountains that rise sharply from the plains. These mountains are not made of rock, but of water ice, frozen so hard in the deep cold that they have the strength of granite. They stand jagged and tall against the dark sky capped with methane snow. The sun here is just a very bright star, casting long sharp shadows across the red-tinted tholins, organic compounds that coat the surface. It is a lonely, lovely outpost, a heart beating slowly in the freezing dark. Locked in an eternal embrace with Pluto is its partner, Charon. As we drift from the nitrogen heart of the parent, we realise that Charon is so large relative to Pluto that they technically orbit a point in empty space between them. They are a binary system, two worlds waltzing around an invisible centre, and they are tidally locked, meaning they always show the same face to one another. If you stood on one side of Pluto, Charon would hang motionless in the sky, a permanent silver moon that never rises and never sets, simply hovering forever. Float toward this silent partner. Charon is greyer, darker, more battered than its companion. Its north pole is stained with a deep red cap, affectionately named Mordor, formed by atmosphere escaping from Pluto and freezing onto Charon's pole, baked red by the sun's ultraviolet light over eons. A massive chasm rips across the moon's equator, a canyon system that makes the Grand Canyon look like a hairline fracture. It suggests that long ago this moon might have had a subsurface ocean that froze and expanded, splitting the moon's crust open like a bursting seam. It is a silent, broken guardian, staring forever at its partner across the void. Two ice dancers holding hands in the dark, spinning together until the end of time. Beyond the dance of Pluto and Charon, the solar system does not end. It merely widens into a vast, dispersed sea of shadows. We drift into the Kuiper Belt. This is the attic of the solar system, a sprawling donut-shaped ring of icy bodies, remnants from the dawn of creation that never coalesced into planets. It is not a crowded field, but a place of immense solitude. The objects here, millions of icy rocks and dwarf planets, are separated by millions of miles of silence. Imagine floating in this deep expanse. It is the frontier, the edge of the known map. Here, the sun is so distant it provides no warmth, only a pinpoint of light that marks home. The objects we pass are ancient, untouched for 4.5 billion years. They are time capsules, pristine samples of the primordial soup from which we all emerged. Drifting here feels like floating in the deepest part of the ocean at night, where the water is black and still, and you are suspended in a weightless void. There is no sound, no wind, only the slow, majestic clockwork of orbits that take centuries to complete. It is a place of infinite patience, where time stretches out, slowing down, wrapping you in the comfort of the eternal, the unfinished, and the unknown. Drifting deeper into this frozen frontier, we leave the silent watch of the Kuiper Belt behind, moving toward a world that sits even further in the shadows, a place that rewrote our understanding of the solar system. We approach Eris, a world of stark, blinding white. If Pluto is the king of the Kuiper Belt, Eris is the queen of the scattered disk, a realm where the orbits are wild and highly tilted. As you float toward this distant sphere, the first thing you notice is its brilliance. Despite being 3 times further from the sun than Pluto, it shines with a ghostly, piercing luminescence. This is because its surface is coated in a layer of methane ice that has frozen out of the atmosphere entirely. Imagine standing on this polished white marble. The cold here is absolute, a temperature so low that the atmosphere itself has collapsed and fallen as snow, wrapping the planet in a reflective blanket that mirrors the distant, tiny sun. It feels heavier here than on Pluto. There is a density to this world, a gravitas that belies its size. You are standing on one of the most substantial objects in the dwarf realms, a heavy rock wrapped in ice. Looking up, the sky's a jet black canvas, the stars unblinking and sharp. Beside you, its moon, Dysnomia, casts a faint grey shadow on the white plains. It is a world of suspended animation, where a single orbit takes 557 Earth years to complete. To be here is to experience time at its slowest, a glacial pace where centuries pass like minutes, and the universe feels paused in a breath of eternal winter. From the heavy frozen stillness of Eris, we let the cosmic currents pull us sideways, drifting toward a celestial oddity that defies the very shape of what we think a world should be. We encounter Haumea. In your mind's eye, erase the image of the perfect sphere. This world is not a round ball, but an elongated ellipsoid, shaped like a smooth river stone or a perfect tumbling egg. As we hover near it, the reason for this strange shape becomes dizzyingly clear. Speed. Haumea is spinning with a frantic, incredible velocity, completing a full rotation in just 4 hours. It is the fastest spinning large object in our solar system. Visualize the sensation of watching this egg-shaped world turn beneath you. It spins so fast that gravity has pulled its equator outward, stretching it into this oblong form. The surface is crystalline water ice, hard as rock, glimmering with a bluish hue. If you were to stand on the equator, you would feel significantly lighter than at the poles, as if the centrifugal force is trying to gently throw you off into space. There is a ring here too, a faint dark band of debris circling the spinning stone, a hula hoop of dust dancing around the frantic centre. It is a chaotic, energetic ballet in the middle of the quiet dark, a reminder that nature can sculpt its creations into any form it desires, given enough speed and time. It feels like a stone skipped across a cosmic pond, frozen in the moment of its spin, turning forever in the deep void. We push outward again, leaving the scattered discs and the spinning stones, travelling a distance so vast that the human mind struggles to comprehend it. We are entering the Oort Cloud. We have not just left a neighbourhood, we are passing through the city limits. This is the true shell of the solar system, a colossal spherical bubble made of trillions of icy objects that surrounds our sun like a thick protective husk. We're no longer on a flat plane where the planets orbit. We're in a three-dimensional cloud of sleeping comets. The sun is now just the brightest star in the sky, indistinguishable from the other points of light to the untrained eye. Imagine drifting through this immense spherical cathedral. The objects here are the dirty snowballs of the universe, jagged lumps of ice and ancient dust that have been sleeping here since the birth of the sun. They are waiting. Occasionally, the gravity of a passing star will nudge one of them, waking it from its billions of years of slumber, sending it plunging inward toward the sun to become a long-period comet with a brilliant tail. But here, they are dark and silent. The distance between them is enormous. You could float for a lifetime and never see one close up. It is a realm of potential energy, a vast frozen armoury of comets held in a delicate gravitational balance. The feeling here is one of womb-like enclosure, the very edge of the nest, the final boundary before the true abyss begins. Crossing through the icy shell of the Oort Cloud, we arrive at an invisible but powerful barrier known as the heliopause. This is the distinct line where the sun's influence finally surrenders to the galaxy. For our entire journey, we have been travelling inside the heliosphere, a bubble of solar wind, a stream of charged particles blowing outward from the sun. But here, that wind runs out of strength. It crashes against the interstellar medium, the gas and dust that fills the space between the stars. Visualize this boundary not as a wall, but as a turbulent shoreline where two great oceans meet. On one side is the warm, familiar current of our sun, on the other is the cold, unknown depth of the galaxy. As we cross this threshold, the sound of space changes. The plasma waves shift in frequency, a cosmic hum that drops into a deeper, flatter tone. You're stepping out of the protection of the solar bubble. The cosmic rays from distant supernovae, previously deflected by the sun's wind, now wash freely through space. It is a moment of transition, like stepping out of a warm house into a snowy night. You are now truly outside, looking back at the solar system as a single, contained unit, a tiny island of order floating in the dark ocean of the Milky Way. Now we are in the interstellar medium, the void between the stars. But we are not alone in this darkness. Drifting silently past us is a phantom, a world without a sun. This is a rogue planet. It is an orphan, untethered by gravity, drifting freely through the galaxy. There are billions of them, perhaps more than there are stars wandering the dark lanes of space. Without a star to light its face, this planet is invisible to the eyes, a shadow moving against the shadows. Picture approaching this dark wanderer. It is a gas giant similar to Jupiter, but without the bands of light and colour that the sun reveals. It is a ghost. Yet, as you drift closer, you realise it is not dead. You can sense a heat radiating from its core, the remnants of its formation still burning deep within. With your spectral vision, you might see faint, dull bands of infrared clouds swirling in the eternal night. There is no day here, no seasons, only the endless starlight. It is a lonely existence, yet there is a profound freedom in it. This world answers to no master, orbits no burning tyrant. It sails the galactic sea on its own trajectory, a silent nomad carrying its secrets through the deep, unending dark, warm on the inside, frozen on the outside, a traveller of the void. As our vision expands to the wider galaxy, we realise that our solar system is but one of countless families. We turn our gaze toward the nearest campfire in the distance, the star Proxima Centauri. Orbiting this small red dwarf star is a world called Proxima b. It is our neighbour, the closest known exoplanet to Earth, yet it exists in a reality entirely different from our own. Because its star is small and dim, the planet must orbit very close to stay warm, so close that a year passes in just 11 days. Imagine standing on the surface of this alien world. The light here is not white or yellow, but a permanent dusky red, like the last moments of a sunset that never ends. The star hangs large and heavy in the sky, 3 times the size of our sun, but the most striking feature is the stillness. This world is likely tidally locked, just like our moon is to Earth. One side faces the star forever in an eternal scorching day, while the other is frozen in an everlasting night. You're standing in the twilight zone, the thin strip of land between the burning day and the frozen night. Here, the sun sits forever on the horizon, casting long, dramatic shadows that never move. It is a world of permanent evening, bathed in a crimson glow, a place where time seems to have stopped, suspended in the amber light of a dying afternoon. Leaving the red twilight of our neighbour, we cast our minds further into the stellar sea to witness a type of world that defies our local logic. We find a hot Jupiter. In our own system, the giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, live far out in the cold. But here, we find a gas giant that orbits its star closer than Mercury orbits the Sun. It is a monster roasting in the fire. The heat is so intense that the planet glows with a dull, sinister light of its own, a deep, smouldering ember in the blackness. Visualize floating in the upper atmosphere of such a world. The clouds here are not made of ammonia or water, but of exotic minerals, perhaps silicates or even vaporized metals. The temperature is thousands of degrees. Because of the extreme heat difference between the day side and the night side, supersonic winds roar around the planet, carrying the heat to the dark side. Imagine a wind made of iron vapor, howling at 10,000 miles per hour. It is a place of beautiful violence, a cauldron of chemistry where the skies might rain molten glass sideways. It reminds us that the universe is not always a place of gentle balance. It is a furnace of creation, pushing the laws of physics to their breaking points, creating worlds that exist on the very edge of destruction. Drifting away from the inferno, We seek a vision of crystalline stillness, a world of pure treasure. We approach a planet like 55 Cancri, a super-Earth that orbits close to its star. This world is rich in carbon, the fundamental building block of life, but here, under immense heat and pressure, that carbon has taken a different form. As we descend through the thick, hazy atmosphere, the ground beneath us glitters with a brilliance that would blind the human eye. Picture a landscape not of dirt and granite, but of graphite and diamond. The mountains that rise against the horizon are faceted, catching the starlight and refracting it into a kaleidoscope of rainbows. The valley floors are covered in thick layers of diamonds, some clear as water, others pink or blue, raw and uncut, larger than boulders. It is a planet of supreme opulence, silent and shimmering. There is no vegetation to soften the view, only the sharp geometric angles of the crystal structures. It is a hard, beautiful world, a jewel box unlocked in the cosmos. The ground beneath your feet is worth more than the entire economy of Earth, yet here, without hands to hold it, it is simply rock, waiting in the silence, a glittering testament to the alchemical pressure of the stars. Soothing our eyes from the sharp glitter of the diamond world, we seek the softness of fluid. We travel to a water world, a planet completely covered by a global ocean. There are no continents here, no islands, no polar ice caps, only water, stretching endlessly in every direction. It is a sphere of deep liquid blue, reflecting the sky with a perfect, unbroken mirror. The atmosphere is thick with humidity, clouds piling up in towering white cathedrals that drift over the wave tops. Imagine the sensory experience of floating just above the surface. The sound is a rhythmic, eternal washing of waves, a hush that encircles the entire globe. The water is deep, perhaps hundreds of miles deep, creating a pressure at the bottom that turns water into exotic forms of ice that remain solid even when hot. But up here, on the surface, it is a paradise of motion. You watch the swells rise and fall, the sunlight dancing on the crests. There is no shore to swim to, no solid ground to anchor the mind. It is a world of total fluidity, where the only constant is the tide. It brings a feeling of profound release, a washing away of all boundaries, leaving only the blue horizon and the deep, rocking peace of the endless sea. Finally, we pull back from the specific worlds to contemplate a concept, a region that exists around every star, a zone of perfect balance. We drift into the Goldilocks zone, or the habitable zone. This is not a planet, but a promise. It is the invisible band around a star where the temperature is not too hot to boil water away, and not too cold to freeze it solid. It is the realm of the liquid, the cradle of potential. Visualize this zone as a shimmering ring of green and blue light encircling a star. It represents the delicate equilibrium necessary for life as we know it. To float here is to feel the comfort of a temperate spring day, a relief from the freezing voids and the burning furnaces we have just visited. It is a place of gentleness in a harsh universe. As you drift through this unseen channel of warmth, you understand that this is where the cosmic dreamers wake up, where the chemistry of stones and water transforms into the magic of breath and thought. It is the safe harbour, the narrow path of life, warm, inviting, and holding the breath of infinite possibility. Resting in this concept of the Goldilocks zone, we allow our imagination to manifest a specific destination, a world that whispers of home yet sings a different song. We drift toward Kepler 186f, a planet that is often called Earth's cousin. As we approach, we feel a sense of familiarity. It is roughly the same size as our own world, rocky and grounded, wrapped in an atmosphere that holds the promise of clouds and wind. But as we break through the cloud layer, the landscape that reveals itself is not the green we know, but a breathtaking canvas of deep russets, oranges, and crimsons. Visualize a forest on this alien world. Because the star it orbits is a red dwarf, Smaller, cooler and dimmer than our sun, the plants here have evolved not to absorb bright yellow sunlight, but the softer, redder wavelengths. Imagine walking through a grove of trees where the leaves are the colour of dried wine and copper. It is a world of eternal autumn. The light filtering through the canopy is soft and golden, lacking the harsh glare of a terrestrial noon. It feels permanently late afternoon here, a time of day that encourages rest and reflection. The shadows are long and gentle, and the air holds a stillness, a quiet anticipation. You run your hand over the red moss that covers the stones, feeling the texture of life that has found a way to thrive under a dimmer star, a testament to nature's ability to paint with whatever light it is given. From the quiet red forests of Kepler 108 Ceph, we ascend and travel to a star system that feels less like a solitary outpost and more like a crowded, bustling family. We arrive at the TRAPPIST-1 system. Here, 7 Earth-sized planets huddle close to a single ultra-cool dwarf star, orbiting in such tight formation that the entire system would fit comfortably within the orbit of Mercury. It is a cosmic jewellery box, packed tight with worlds. We drift down to the surface of one of the middle planets, settling on a coastline of a twilight sea. Picture the sky above you. It is the most spectacular view in the galaxy. Because the planets are so close to one another, they appear massive in the heavens, far larger than the moon looks from Earth. You can see the features of the neighbouring worlds with your naked eye, the swirls of their clouds, the white of their ice caps, the blue of their oceans, hanging suspended in the violet sky like giant floating marbles. It feels intimate, as if you could almost reach out and touch the sister planets. As they pass one another in their rapid orbits, they cast eclipses and shadows, a complex rhythmic dance of celestial bodies. It is a place where you never feel alone, a world where the horizon is always decorated with the faces of its siblings, watching over you in the dim pinkish light. Leaving the crowded sky of the Seven Sisters, we drift toward a system where the anomaly lies not in the planets, but in the suns themselves. We travel to a world reminiscent of our sci-fi dreams, the planet Kepler 16b. As we land on this cold, gaseous world, we turn our gaze to the horizon to witness a sunset that defies the singular nature of our experience. There is not one star sinking below the mountains, but 2. Imagine the interplay of light as a binary sunset begins. One star is bright and orange, the other smaller and ruby red. As they descend, the shadows on the ground split and double. You see 2 shadows of yourself stretching out across the landscape, crossing and merging, fading at different rates. The light shifts through a spectrum of impossible colours, changing from a bright apricot to a deep, bruising purple as the stars dip below the horizon one after the other. It is a celestial waltz, 2 partners holding hands as they slip into the night. The concept of day and night here is fluid, a complex rhythm of light and dark that reminds us that the universe loves pairs, that even stars can find partners in the vast emptiness of space. We move from the visual poetry of double sunsets to a world that challenges the very laws of physics as we understand them instinctively. We float toward Gliese 436b. From a distance, it looks like a standard Neptune-sized planet, glowing with a soft purplish hue. But as we descend into its atmosphere, we encounter a paradox that the mind struggles to accept. This is a world of burning ice. Visualize a landscape made of water ice, vast glaciers and frozen plains stretching out before you. But the temperature here is hundreds of degrees, hot enough to melt lead. How can this be? The gravity of the planet is so immense that it crushes the water molecules together, forcing them to remain in a solid state despite the searing heat. It is a special kind of dense ice, known as ice seethem. Imagine touching an ice cube that burns your hand, seeing steam rising continuously from a solid, frozen surface. The entire planet is wreathed in a vapor trail, a comet-like tail of hydrogen escaping into space. It is a world of tension, where the crushing weight of gravity fights the chaotic energy of heat, locking the water into a hot, solid prison. It is a reminder that state and form are relative, that water can be a stone of fire if the universe presses hard enough. Drifting away from the paradox of hot ice, we seek the comfort of the shadows. We travel to a world that is the embodiment of the night itself, the planet Trees 2b. This is the darkest planet ever discovered. It orbits close to its star, yet it reflects almost no light, absorbing more than 99% of the illumination that hits it. It is darker than coal, darker than black acrylic paint, a world that swallows light. Imagine floating near this phantom world. It is not invisible, but it has a heavy velvet presence. Against the black backdrop of space, it is a void within a void. As your eyes adjust to the darkness, you notice a faint, eerie glow emanating from its surface. A deep, dull red, like the dying embers of a fire or the heating element of an electric stove. This is the heat of the planet radiating out, a dim, cherry-red light struggling to escape the blackness. To be here is to be in the ultimate sensory deprivation tank, a place of profound silence and shadow, where the visual noise of the universe is dampened, absorbed, and silenced by a world that keeps its secrets in the dark. From the deepest shadow, we travel to a spectacle of light and structure, a world that wears the crown of the galaxy. We approach the brown dwarf system hosting the planet J1407b, often called the Super Saturn. If you thought Saturn's rings were majestic, prepare your mind for a scale that is nearly impossible to grasp. The ring system here is 200 times larger than Saturn's. If this planet replaced Saturn in our own sky, its rings would be more prominent than the full moon, spanning from one horizon to the other. Visualize yourself floating above this colossal disk. It is not just a set of rings. It is a vast, spinning plain of dust and rock that eclipses the central star for weeks at a time. The rings are so wide that they have cleared massive gaps where exomoons are forming, carving their own paths through the dust. Looking down, the concentric circles stretch out into the infinite distance, a golden record playing a silent song in the dark. The light from the star filters through the thinner parts of the rings, creating a kaleidoscope of shadows that dance across the planet's clouds. It is a monument to gravity's elegance, a structure so vast it feels architectural, a celestial city of dust spinning in perfect silent unison. Leaving the architecture of rings, we drift toward a beautiful but deceptive world, the deep azure sphere of HD 18973-3b. From space, it looks like a calm blue marble, perhaps a water world like Earth. The colour is rich, soothing, like a deep tropical ocean. But as we descend, we realise this beauty hides a sharp and dangerous edge. The blue comes not from water, but from silicate particles, glass, suspended in the atmosphere. Imagine a storm on this world. The winds here howl at 5,000 miles per hour, 7 times the speed of sound. In this violent tempest, the silicate particles condense. It rains glass. But because of the ferocious wind, the rain does not fall down, it falls sideways. Visualize being safe in an observation bubble, watching the horizontal torrent of blue glass slicing through the air. It is a shredding wind, a storm of glittering shards. Yet, from a distance, the chaos blends into a single serene shade of cobalt blue. It is a lesson in perspective, teaching us that what appears calm and familiar from afar may be wild and untamable up close, a beautiful blue storm raging in the silence of the cosmos. We move now to a place of eerie resurrection, the pulsar planets orbiting the undead star Lich. This is a graveyard system. The star at the centre went supernova long ago, exploding with tremendous force and then collapsed into a pulsar, a tiny, incredibly dense, city-sized ball of neutrons spinning hundreds of times per second. It sweeps the sky with beams of radiation like a frantic lighthouse. Orbiting this strobe light star are planets that should have been destroyed. They are the zombie worlds, formed from the debris of the dead star. Picture standing on one of these Draugr worlds. The sky is lit not by a steady sun but by a flashing strobe, a pulse of light that strikes the ground every few milliseconds. The radiation paints the sky in ghostly energetic colours, violets and greens invisible to the naked eye but felt as a hum in the bones. The auroras here never stop. They are a permanent canopy of dancing light, fueled by the pulse's intense magnetic wind. It is a frantic, high-energy environment, yet the planets persist, cold and dead, bathed in the strobe light of their parent's corpse. It is a haunting beauty, a disco of the dead, spinning rhythmically in the aftermath of destruction. Seeking a gentler light, we turn our attention from the external flash of pulsars to the internal glow of planetary atmospheres. We contemplate the phenomenon of the aurora, not just on Earth, but as a universal crown worn by many worlds. On Jupiter, the auroras are not caused by the sun alone, but by the volcanic moon, Io spewing particles into Jupiter's massive magnetic field. These are not merely curtains of light, they are explosions of colour that cover an area larger than our entire planet. Visualise drifting above the pole of a gas giant. Below you, the atmosphere is igniting in a ring of fire. But unlike the soft green ribbons of Earth, these auroras glow in deep electric purples, ultraviolet blues, and X-ray whites. They pulsate and throb like a living halo. You can see the magnetic field lines made visible, glowing threads that connect the planet to its moons, a web of energy shimmering in the dark. It is a silent fireworks display that has been playing for billions of years, a visual manifestation of the invisible forces that shield and shape these worlds. It is the planet dreaming in colour, casting its magnetic thoughts out into the void. Finally, as we float in the presence of these magnetic lights, we open our senses to something beyond sight. We listen. We tune into the electromagnetic vibrations of the planets, the chorus of the solar system. Every planet with a magnetosphere emits radio waves, a complex song generated by charged particles moving through magnetic fields. Imagine you can hear these waves translated into sound. Earth sounds like a series of chirps and whistles, like a flock of birds greeting the dawn. Saturn sounds like a haunting, oscillating sci-fi hum, a deep, wavering drone. But Jupiter sings a roar. It is a complex rhythmic static, like ocean waves crashing against a shore of gravel, mixed with the popping of distant thunder. This is the music of the spheres. It is not a silent vacuum out here, it is a symphony of energy. As you drift in the space between worlds, you are bathed in this celestial choir, the planets singing to one another across the millions of miles. It is a lullaby of physics, a song of gravity and magnetism that rocks you gently, deeper and deeper into the cosmic dream, carried on the sound waves of the giants. The song of the planets, that grand electromagnetic choir, is not a chaotic noise, but a structured harmony, a rhythm that governs the movements of the worlds. As we linger in the influence of Jupiter, we become aware of a profound synchronization, a cosmic clockwork known as orbital resonance. This is the heartbeat of the Galilean moons. Imagine looking down upon the Jovian system from high above its north pole. You see the moons Io, Europa, and Ganymede tracing their paths around the giant. They do not move at random. For every single, slow orbit that the distant Ganymede completes, Europa completes exactly 2, and the frantic Io completes exactly 4. Visualize this as a celestial dance of gravity, a waltz played out on a scale of millions of miles. Every time these moons line up, they give each other a gentle gravitational tug, a rhythmic pump that keeps their orbits slightly elliptical. It is this rhythmic kneading, this regular pulse of gravity, that stretches and squeezes the moon's interiors, keeping their cores warm and liquid. It is a reminder that in space, connection is physical. The timing of one world affects the heart of another. Watching them spin is like watching the gears of a perfect diamond-studded watch, ticking silently in the darkness, keeping a time that is measured not in seconds, but in eons, a soothing, repetitive cycle that has continued for billions of years without missing a beat. Drifting closer to the conductor of this resonance, we focus our attention on Ganymede, the king of moons. It is a world that commands respect, for it is the largest moon in the entire solar system, a giant larger even than the planet Mercury. As we float over its surface, we see a duality of terrain. Ancient dark regions scarred by craters and lighter younger regions sliced by grooves and ridges. But the true majesty of Ganymede lies in something invisible to the eye. It is the only moon known to possess its own magnetic field, a protective bubble generated by a churning liquid iron core deep within. Imagine this invisible shield, a magnetosphere within a magnetosphere, nesting inside Jupiter's massive field like a Russian doll. This magnetic bubble fights against the intense radiation of Jupiter, creating a small zone of relative safety. And beneath the icy crust, hidden from the cold vacuum, lies a saltwater ocean that may contain more water than all the oceans of Earth combined. Picture the layers of this world. A shell of ice, a deep, warm sea, and a heart of iron humming with magnetic energy. It is a planet in all but name, a fully realized world held in the thrall of a gas giant, silently guarding its internal ocean with a shield of its own making. Moving outward from the magnetic king, we come to the outermost of the Galilean siblings, the battered and ancient Callisto. This is a world of stillness. Unlike its inner neighbours, Callisto is not part of the rhythmic orbital dance. It floats alone, just outside the resonance, and as a result, it is geologically dead. It is the most heavily cratered object in the solar system, a fossil record of the early days of creation. Every asteroid, every comet that has ever struck it has left a mark that remains unchanged, a pristine history book written in impact scars. But amidst this cratered grey landscape, there is a feature of haunting beauty, the Valhalla Basin. Visualize a massive impact site, not just a hole in the ground, but a multi-ring structure that ripples outward like a stone thrown into a frozen pond. The rings extend for over 1,000 miles. When the impactor hit billions of years ago, the ice was softer, perhaps slushy, and the surface rippled in slow motion before freezing solid forever. Floating above Valhalla, you see these concentric circles of bright ice against the dark terrain, a frozen echo of a violent moment turned into a permanent silent sculpture. It is a testament to the memory of ice, holding the shape of a ripple for eternity, a ghost of motion trapped in the freezing dark. We leave the kingdom of Jupiter now, allowing the solar wind to carry us back inward, past the asteroid belt, past Mars and Earth, returning to the swift messenger, Mercury. We have visited its surface before, but now we look at it with different eyes, seeing the invisible. Mercury is not just a bare rock, it possesses a secret tale. As the planet rushes through its orbit, the intense solar wind and the heat of the sun blast sodium atoms off its surface. These glowing atoms are pushed away from the sun, forming a long comet-like tail that stretches for millions of miles behind the planet. Imagine wearing spectacles that allow you to see only orange light. Suddenly, the grey rock of Mercury is ablaze with a golden-orange aura. Trailing behind it is a glowing stream of sodium gas, shimmering like a veil in the solar wind. It looks like a ship cutting through a phosphorescent sea, leaving a wake of glowing light. This tail is tenuous and ghostly, invisible to the naked human eye, but to the universe, Mercury is a comet planet, a rock that bleeds light as it races around the star. It adds a sense of speed and grace to the small world, a flowing scarf of orange mist that dances behind it, painting the vacuum with the atoms of its own skin. From the orange tail of Mercury, we drift to the bright cloud-choked world of Venus. We have spoken of its heat and its pressure, but there is a strange beauty hidden on its highest peaks. On the summits of the Maxwell Montes, The tallest mountains on Venus, the ground is bright and reflective, gleaming like snow. But this is not water ice, which would vaporize instantly in the oven-like heat. This is heavy metal snow. Visualize standing on these jagged peaks, where the atmosphere is slightly cooler than the valleys below. Here, gaseous lead and bismuth sulfides, boiled off from the lowlands, rise up and condense on the mountaintops. It creates a frost of galena and bismuth, shiny metallic crystals that coat the rocks. Imagine a mountain range capped not in white powder, but in silver and gunmetal grey, glittering with a metallic luster under the diffuse yellow light of the sky. It is a landscape of heavy luxury, where the snow is made of semiconductors and the rocks are plated in metal. It is a reminder of the exotic alchemy of the cosmos, where familiar shapes, snow-capped mountains, are mimicked using the strangest of ingredients, creating a scene of industrial beauty in the sweltering haze. Leaving the metallic peaks of Venus, we drift back to the blue oasis of Earth, but this time we turn our back to it, facing the moon. We observe a slow, melancholic dance known as lunar recession. We often think of the moon as a permanent fixture, but it is slowly, imperceptibly saying goodbye. Due to the tidal friction it exerts on Earth's oceans, the drag of the water against the spinning planet, energy is transferred from Earth to the moon. This energy pushes the moon into a higher orbit, causing it to drift away from us at a rate of about 1.5 inches per year. Visualize this invisible stretching of the bond. It is a movement as slow as the growth of a fingernail, yet over eons, it is profound. Billions of years ago, the moon loomed massive in our sky. In the distant future, it will be a small, distant marble. This process is also slowing down Earth's rotation, making our days longer. To float here is to witness the longest, slowest farewell in history. It is a gentle release, a cosmic parent letting go of its child, allowing it to drift wider and wider into the dark. It brings a sense of poignancy to the night sky, a reminder that even gravity is not a static chain, but a dynamic, evolving relationship that changes with the breath of deep time. While we float near the moon, let us observe it during its crescent phase. The bright sliver of the sunlit side is dazzling, but look closely at the dark portion of the lunar disk. It is not pitch black. It glows with a faint, ghostly grey light. This is Earthshine, sometimes poetically called the old moon in the new moon's arms. This light is not from the sun directly. It is sunlight that has reflected off the clouds and oceans of Earth, travelled across the void to the moon, and reflected back to our eyes. Imagine standing on the dark surface of the moon during this time. You are not in total darkness. High above you, the Earth hangs fully illuminated, a brilliant blue and white orb, 50 times brighter than the full moon sees from Earth. The Earthlight bathes the lunar landscape in a soft, cool turquoise glow. You can see your shadow cast by the light of your homeworld. It is a connection of reflection, a loop of light that ties the two worlds together even in the dark. It is a comforting thought that when the moon is dark to us, we are the lamp that lights its way, casting a gentle glow over its silent craters. We expand our view now, pulling back from the Earth-Moon system to look at the plane of the solar system itself. In the quiet hours before dawn, or just after sunset, a faint triangular glow can sometimes be seen extending up from the horizon, tracing the path of the sun. This is the zodiacal light. It is not atmospheric, it is cosmic. This ethereal, pyramid-shaped glow is sunlight scattering off billions of tiny dust particles that float in the space between the planets. Visualize this dust. It is the debris of comets and asteroid collisions, the ancient construction dust of the solar system, spread out into a vast, thin disk. When you see this false dawn, you're looking at the material spine of our neighbourhood, a tangible fog of history illuminated by the star. Drifting through it feels like moving through a sunbeam in a dusty room, but on a scale of millions of miles. It is a reminder that space is not truly empty. It is filled with the golden grain of the cosmos, a delicate, glowing river of diamond dust that traces the highway upon which the planets travel. We lift our consciousness higher now, far above the plane of dust, looking down at the sun itself. We realize that the sun is not stationary. It is moving, dragging the entire family of planets with it. We're on a grand voyage around the center of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the galactic year. It takes our sun approximately 230 million Earth years to complete one single orbit around the galaxy. The last time the sun was in this part of the sky, dinosaurs were just beginning to rise on Earth and flowers had not yet evolved. Visualize this grandest of clocks. The galaxy is a carousel of stars spinning slowly in the void. Our solar system is just one horse on the carousel, bobbing up and down through the galactic disk as we circle. We are travelers in deep time. To think of a galactic year is to crush human history into an instant. We are flying through a new region of space every second, seeing stars and nebulae that our ancestors never saw. It is a journey without an end, a massive silent migration of billions of stars, turning together like a wheel of light in the darkness, carrying us into the unknown future of the galaxy. Finally, we cast our minds to the force that drives this wheel and the wheels beyond it. We look beyond our galaxy, toward the constellation of Centaurus and Hydra. There is a mystery there, a gravitational anomaly known as the Great Attractor. It is a region of space millions of light years away that is pulling our Milky Way and thousands of other galaxies toward it. We are all flowing like water in a river, drifting toward this invisible basin. Visualize the universe not as static islands, but as a flowing liquid. The galaxies are like leaves floating on a stream, all moving together in a dark flow toward this massive concentration of mass. We cannot see exactly what it is, as it is hidden behind the dust of our own galaxy, but we can feel its pull. It creates a sense of surrender. We are not just spinning, we are being called. We are part of a supercluster of galaxies, Laniakea, which means immeasurable heaven, and we are sliding gracefully through the void toward a meeting point that we will not reach for billions of years. It is the ultimate letting go, allowing the gravity of the universe to carry us where it will, flowing in the great cosmic river toward a destiny written in the stars. From that immense invisible river pulling us toward the Great Attractor, we allow ourselves to drift into a region of profound contrast, a place where the cosmic stream runs dry. We enter the Bhuta's void. If the galaxy clusters are the cities of the universe, teeming with the lights of billions of stars, this is the great wilderness, the silent desert of the cosmos. It is a sphere of almost pure emptiness, a staggering 330 million light-years across. To understand the scale of this silence, imagine that if the Milky Way were in the centre of this void, we would not have known that other galaxies existed until the 1960s. We would have thought we were alone in an infinite sea of black. Visualize the sensation of floating in this deep hollow. The stars here are so few and far between that the sky is a canvas of perfect, unblemished jet black. It is the ultimate sensory deprivation tank. There is no gravitational tug from neighbours, no nebulae painting the darkness with colour, only the profound, heavy peace of nothingness. It is not a frightening dark, but a restful one, a place where the universe has cleared a space for pure quiet. Drifting here, you feel the vastness of the space between things, a reminder that matter is the exception and emptiness is the rule. It is a cathedral of silence, vast and hollow, where you can rest in the complete absence of noise, suspended in the velvet deep of the great nothing. In this deep quiet, if we tune our senses not to the light of stars but to the faint ancient hum of the universe itself, we detect a glow that is everywhere and nowhere. We perceive the cosmic microwave background. This is the oldest light in existence, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself, cooled and stretched over 13 billion years until it is no longer visible light, but a faint whisper of microwave radiation. It is the static that appears on an old analog television between channels, the background hum of reality. Imagine this radiation as a temperature, a blanket that wraps the entire cosmos. It is incredibly cold, just a few degrees above absolute zero, but it is uniform, touching every point in space equally. To see it is to see the baby picture of the universe, a snapshot taken when the cosmos was just a dense, hot fog clearing for the first time. It looks like a mottled map of slightly warmer and cooler spots, a blueprint of density that would eventually become the galaxies we know. Floating in this fossil light feels like floating in a memory, a gentle, omnipresent vibration that connects us to the very moment of beginning. It is the texture of space-time itself, a grainy, ancient fabric that holds the history of everything that ever was and ever will be. From the ancient background, we move forward in time, condensing that diffuse potential into form. We approach a stellar nursery, a nebula of breathtaking scale and colour. Let us drift into the Orion Nebula. It is a cavern of glowing gas and dust, illuminated from within by the fierce ultraviolet light of newborn stars. The colours here are not the flat blacks and whites of the void, but a painter's palette of deep pinks, sulphur yellows and oxygen greens. Visualise yourself swimming through this celestial fog. It is not thick like a cloud on Earth, but a tenuous mist that spans light years. You drift past the pillars of creation, massive towers of cold hydrogen gas and dust, standing tall against the bright background. These are the wombs of stars. Deep inside these dark, dusty columns, gravity is pulling the gas together, squeezing it tighter and tighter until the pressure ignites the nuclear fire. It is a place of slow-motion creation. You can almost feel the static electricity in the dust, the potential energy waiting to be unleashed. It is a chaotic, beautiful garden where the seeds of light are planted, a landscape of ethereal sculptures carved by the winds of young stars, glowing softly in the dark like a bioluminescent deep-sea reef. As we focus on one of these birthing stars, we witness the formation of the stage upon which planets will dance. We see a protoplanetary disk. The young star is in the centre, a spinning ball of anger and light, not yet fully stable. Around it, the leftover dust and gas from its birth have flattened out into a massive rotating pancake. This is the conservation of angular momentum made visible, the same force that makes a spinning pizza dough flatten out. Imagine hovering above this great spinning wheel. It is glowing in the infrared, warm with the friction of billions of rocks and dust grains rubbing against one another. It looks like the rings of Saturn, but on a colossal scale, stretching out for billions of miles. You can see dark lanes forming in the disk, empty tracks where newborn planets are beginning to sweep up the dust, clearing their paths like a finger drawn through sand. It is a pottery wheel of the gods, spinning clay into worlds. The motion is hypnotic, a steady unidirectional flow of material, swirling around the central fire. It is the architecture of a solar system in its blueprint phase, a flat, spinning promise of the worlds to come. Zooming into the microscopic level of this disk, we witness the humble beginnings of giants. We observe the planetesimals. In the zero-gravity environment of the disk, dust grains do not fall, they float, and when they touch, they do not shatter, they stick. Driven by simple electrostatic forces, the same static cling that makes dust stick to a balloon, these tiny specks of cosmic soot clump together to form dust bunnies. Visualize these fragile, lacy structures of dust growing larger, becoming pebbles, then rocks, then boulders. They are the seeds of planets. As they grow, their gravity increases, and they begin to attract more material, accreting mass in a slow, gentle accumulation. It is a process of patience. Imagine a rock the size of a mountain gently bumping into another, fusing together in a slow-motion kiss of gravity to become something larger. There is a sense of inevitability here, a compounding of matter. These planetesimals are the rugged, cratered building blocks, the ancestors of the ground we walk on. To watch them is to watch the assembly of a mosaic, piece by jagged piece, coming together to build a home. Among these building blocks, there were travellers from the outer cold, the icy messengers that brought a gift to the inner worlds. We contemplate the origin of our oceans, the cosmic delivery. In the chaotic youth of the solar system, billions of icy comets and asteroids were flung inward from the frozen reaches beyond the snowline. They rained down upon the young, dry Earth, carrying within them frozen water and organic molecules. Picture this not as a violent bombardment, but as a great hydration. Each impact was a capsule of life bursting open, releasing steam and vapour into the thickening atmosphere. Over millions of years, as the planet cooled, this steam condensed. Visualise the very first rainstorm on Earth. It was a rain that lasted for centuries, a deluge of cosmic water filling the lowlands, creating the first ponds, the first lakes, the primordial global ocean. The water in your glass, the blood in your veins, the tears on your cheek, all of it was once ice floating in the dark void, carried here on the back of a falling star. It is a profound connection. We are swimming in a melted comet, bathed in the fluid of the deep universe. We turn our gaze now to the architect of this system, the Sun, but we look closer than we ever dared before. We observe the texture of the photosphere, a phenomenon known as solar granulation. From a distance, the Sun looks like a smooth, glowing orb, but up close the surface is a shifting mosaic of golden cells, each one the size of Texas. These are the tops of massive convection columns, where hot plasma rises from the depths, bubbles up to the surface, cools, and sinks back down in dark lanes. Imagine looking at a pot of honey simmering on a slow stove. The surface is alive, bubbling in slow motion. The granules resemble kernels of corn packed tight together, bright in the centre and darker at the edges. This is the skin of the star breathing. The movement is rhythmic and continuous, a boiling ocean of light that has never been still for 4.5 billion years. You can almost hear the low resonant rumble of this movement, a deep bass frequency that vibrates through the entire solar system. It is a texture of pure energy, a living fluid surface that churns and roils, converting matter into the light that warms your face across 93 million miles of void. Extending from this bubbling surface is the star's breath, the solar wind. The Sun does not end at its surface, it evaporates into space. A constant stream of charged particles, protons and electrons, flows outward in all directions, creating a tenuous atmosphere that fills the entire solar system. This wind is what blows the tails of comets and ignites the auroras on distant planets. Visualize this wind as a shimmering, invisible heat haze rising from a summer road, but expanding endlessly outward. It caresses the planets, wrapping around their magnetic fields like water flowing around a stone in a stream. We live inside this breath. The heliosphere is the bubble created by this wind, pushing back against the interstellar medium. Imagine yourself floating in this stream, feeling the gentle pressure of the star's exhalation pushing you outward. It is a protective gale, a shield of plasma that defines the boundaries of our home, holding back the colder, harsher winds of the galaxy. It reminds us that space is not empty. It is filled with the presence of the Sun, touching everything in its domain with a breeze of light. Within this dynamic system of gravity and wind, there are hidden pockets of perfect stillness. We discover the Lagrangian points. These are the parking spots of space, specific points between two large bodies, like the Earth and the Sun, where the gravitational forces cancel each other out perfectly. At these points, an object can stay fixed relative to the planets with almost no effort, suspended in a delicate equilibrium. Imagine a valley in the invisible fabric of gravity. While everywhere else in the solar system requires you to orbit at a specific speed to keep from falling, here you can simply rest. It is a cosmic hammock. The James Webb Space Telescope sits at one of these points, L2, hovering 1 million miles from Earth. forever looking out into the dark, its back turned to the sun. Visualize the sensation of this balance, like a ball sitting perfectly at the top of a hill, or a feather caught in a stillness between two opposing breezes. It is a place of rare stability in a universe of constant motion, a quiet sanctuary where science listens to the whispers of the ancient past. Finally, we drift from the balance of gravity to the boundary of gravity, a threshold known as the Roche limit. This is the invisible line around a planet that dictates the fate of its moons. If a moon drifts too close, crossing this line, the planet's gravity will pull harder on the moon's front side than its backside. The tidal forces become so strong that they overcome the gravity holding the moon together, and it gently disintegrates. Visualize this beautiful destruction. A small, icy moon spirals slowly inward, crossing the invisible barrier. Silent cracks appear on its surface. Then, with a slow, dreamlike grace, the moon simply crumbles. It pulls apart into rocks, then pebbles, then dust, spreading out into a perfect circle around the planet. This is the birth of a ring system. It is not an explosion, but a dismantling, a return to the granular. The moon is not gone. It has been transformed into a river of ice, a shimmering halo that encircles the world. It is a reminder of the overwhelming power of the large over the small, and the way the universe recycles its creations, turning a single solid stone into a billion sparkling diamonds dancing forever in a ring of light. From the shimmering debris of the ring system, where the shattered remains of moons dance in a circle of light, we find that chaos is not the only ruler here. There is order, maintained by tiny silent guardians. We turn our attention to the shepherd moons, drifting through the gaps in Saturn's rings, like the Cassini division or the Encke gap. We discover that these empty lanes are not accidental. They are swept clear by small moons, like Prometheus and Pandora, which orbit right on the edge of the ring sections. Visualize these potato-shaped moons as cosmic sheepdogs. As they orbit, their gravity interacts with the billions of icy particles that make up the rings. If a particle drifts too far out of line, wandering away from the main ring, the shepherd moon's gravity gently nudges it back into the flock or ejects it entirely. Imagine floating alongside Prometheus. You watch as it passes the ring particles. Its gravity creates a wake, a ripple in the ice that looks like a wave moving through a field of wheat. It exerts a subtle, rhythmic push and pull, stealing energy from some particles and giving it to others, keeping the edges of the rings sharp and defined. It is a delicate gravitational balance, a tiny world sculpting a massive feature, ensuring that the rings remain distinct, ordered, and beautiful, patrolling the borders of the ice forever. Beyond the rings, in the wider orbit of Saturn, another intricate dance is taking place, a ballet of politeness that defies the violence of typical collisions. We observe the relationship between the moons Janus and Epimetheus. These two small, icy worlds share practically the same orbit, separated by only 30 miles or so, a distance so small in cosmic terms that they should eventually crash into one another. But they do not. They are engaged in an eternal game of leapfrog. Picture the scene as the inner moon, slightly faster, catches up to the outer, slower moon. As they draw closer, you might expect a catastrophic impact. Instead, a gravitational exchange occurs. The inner moon gains energy from the outer one, pushing it up into a higher orbit, while the outer moon loses energy and drops down. They effectively swap places. The one that was behind is now in front, and the one that was high is now low. They pirouette around each other without ever touching, turning away at the last moment to begin the cycle again. This exchange happens once every 4 years. It is a graceful, silent do-si-do in the vacuum, a relationship of mutual respect where the laws of physics choreograph a safe passage, allowing two worlds to share the same lane on the cosmic highway without ever colliding. Leaving the Saturnian system, we drift back toward the king, Jupiter, to witness a phenomenon that turns the emptiness of space into a gathering place. We drift into the realm of the Trojan asteroids. These are not part of the main asteroid belt, but rather two massive camps of rocks that share Jupiter's orbit, travelling 60 degrees ahead of the planet and 60 degrees behind it. These are the gravitational tide pools we spoke of earlier, the stable Lagrangian points. But here they are, populated by thousands of objects. Visualize these swarms as the entourage of the king. To the front, the Greek camp leads the way, a cloud of dark reddish rocks clearing the path. To the rear, the Trojan camp follows, guarding the flank. Drifting among them feels like floating in a sparse, silent archipelago. These asteroids have been trapped here since the formation of the solar system, held in place by the balance between the Sun's gravity and Jupiter's massive pull. They are stable, safe, and ancient. It is as if Jupiter is a great ship sailing through the dark, and these asteroids are the seabirds caught in its wake and its bow wave, travelling with it forever around the Sun. It creates a sense of belonging, a massive invisible structure of gravity that keeps this family of rocks travelling together through the eons. As we watch the planets move against the backdrop of stars, we sometimes witness an optical illusion that confused ancient astronomers for centuries. We observe retrograde motion. From our vantage point on Earth, we watch Mars drifting across the night sky, night after night, moving eastward. But then, it seems to slow down, stop, and reverse course, moving westward for a few weeks, making a loop-the-loop in the heavens before continuing on its way. Imagine this not as the planet actually stopping, but as a trick of perspective, like one car passing another on a long straight highway. Picture yourself in the faster car, Earth, on an inner lane. As you approach the slower car, Mars, in the outer lane it seems to be moving forward. But as you pull alongside and overtake it, the background, the distant mountains, or in this case the stars, makes it appear as though the slower car is drifting backward relative to you. Once you're far ahead, it seems to move forward again. To float in space and watch this alignment is to understand that our view is subjective. The universe does not stop and turn around. It only appears to do so from our moving window. It is a reminder to trust the larger mechanics, not just the immediate view, and to appreciate the graceful passing lanes of the solar orbits. Focusing our gaze back toward the centre, we witness a rare and delicate alignment involving the second planet, a silhouette against the fire. We watch the transit of Venus. This is an event that happens in pairs separated by over a century, a generation-defining moment where Venus passes directly between Earth and the Sun. From our safe, filtered viewpoint, we see the massive, raging face of the Sun, a wall of golden plasma, and then a small, perfectly round disk of absolute blackness begins to cross it. Visualize the moment of contact known as the black drop effect. As the dark sphere of Venus just touches the edge of the Sun, it doesn't separate cleanly. For a moment, a tiny dark ligament seems to connect the planet to the darkness of space, stretching like a drop of water about to fall. Then, it snaps free, and the planet floats as a solitary island of shadow across the sea of fire. It is a slow, majestic crossing that takes hours. Seeing that tiny black dot against the immensity of the star gives you a visceral sense of scale. Venus is the size of Earth, and yet against the Sun, it is nothing more than a period at the end of a sentence. It is a silent, creeping shadow that reminds us of the clockwork precision of the cosmos, a rare alignment that has been chased by explorers and astronomers throughout history. We have relied heavily on our sight during this journey, but the cosmos has a presence that engages other senses as well, if we were exposed to it. We contemplate the smell of space. Astronauts returning from moonwalks, once they repressurized their landers and removed their helmets, reported a distinct pungent aroma clinging to their suits. The dust of the moon, sharp and abrasive, smells like spent gunpowder, like wet ashes after a fire, or the air after a shotgun blast. Drift to the hydrocarbon dunes of Titan, and the scent changes entirely. Here, the air is thick with simple organic molecules. It would smell sweet and musky, like a gas station on a hot day, or the smell of asphalt being laid, mixed with a faint almond scent of cyanide. And deeper, near the centre of the galaxy, there are vast clouds of ethyl formate, the chemical responsible for the flavour of raspberries and the smell of rum. Imagine the universe not as a sterile, odourless vacuum, but as a place rich with the sense of chemistry, metallic, burning, sweet, and acrid. It grounds the experience, making these distant worlds feel physical and real, possessing the gritty sensory textures of a workshop or a laboratory. Plunging back into the giants, we descend through the cloud tops of Jupiter again, going deeper than we dared before, past the storms, past the gas, into the crushing abyss of the mantle. Here, we encounter a substance that exists naturally nowhere on Earth: metallic hydrogen. As the pressure mounts to millions of times that of Earth's atmosphere, the hydrogen gas is squeezed so tightly that the electrons are stripped from the protons. The gas transforms into a liquid metal. Visualize an endless, dark ocean of this strange fluid. It looks like Mercury, heavy and silver, swirling in the pitch black of the planetary interior. It conducts electricity like a copper wire. This massive, churning ocean of liquid metal is the engine that generates Jupiter's immense magnetic field. You are floating in the dynamo of the solar system. There is no solid ground here, only this dense conducting soup that behaves like a planet-sized distinct liquid mirror. It is a state of matter that defies our daily intuition, a place where gas becomes metal under the sheer weight of the world above it, flowing silently in the dark, hot heart of the giant. Drifting outward to the very edge of the map, past the Kuiper belt, we encounter a ghost in the mathematics. We consider the hypothesis of Planet 9. Astronomers watching the icy objects in the scattered disk notice something strange. They are all clustered together, their orbits tilting and pointing in the same direction, like compass needles aligning to a magnet. The mathematical probability of this happening by chance is vanishingly small. There must be something out there, a shepherd in the dark. Imagine a world 5 to 10 times the mass of Earth, a super-Earth, or a mini-Neptune, orbiting so far away that it takes 10,000 years to circle the Sun. It is an invisible giant, drifting in the deepest shadows, too faint to be seen by our telescopes, yet its gravity reaches out like a long hand to organize the outer solar system. Visualizing this world is an act of pure mystery. It might be icy and blue, or dark and rocky. It is the unfinished business of our solar system, a planet that haunts the data, a silent puppeteer whose presence is felt but whose face remains hidden in the deep freeze of the far outer realm. To understand why the solar system looks the way it does, with small rocks near the sun and giants far away, we look back in time to a theory known as the Grand Tack. We imagine the young Jupiter not as a stable sentinel, but as a wandering wrecking ball. In the early chaotic millions of years, Jupiter spiraled inward toward the Sun, ploughing through the region where the asteroid belt and Mars are today. Visualize this massive planet migrating through the primordial dust, scattering planetesimals like bowling pins, clearing the debris and stunting the growth of Mars. Then, caught by the gravity of the forming Saturn, Jupiter tacked, like a sailboat turning into the wind, and migrated back outward to its current home. This movement sculpted the solar system we live in. We are the survivors of this great migration. Drifting through the empty spaces between the inner planets, we feel the ghost of Jupiter's passage, the clearing of the path that allowed Earth to form in safety. It is a story of dynamic movement, of a solar system that was once fluid and shifting before settling into the stable rhythm we know today. Finally, we pull back. We retreat from the planets, from the Sun, from the edge of the solar system, until we are 4 billion miles away, looking back. We recreate the view of the Voyager 1 probe. We look for home. In the vast scattered rays of sunlight reflecting off the spacecraft, caught in a single beam of light, is a tiny, pale blue dot. It is less than a pixel in size. Focus all your attention on that speck. That is here, That is home. That is us. From this distance, the Earth is not a grand world of oceans and continents, of politics and borders. It is a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The silence here is absolute. The darkness is overwhelming. Yet that tiny blue light persists. It holds every ocean we have floated over, every forest we have walked through, every snow-capped mountain and desert dune. It is fragile, lonely, and incredibly precious. Holding this image in your mind brings a profound sense of perspective and peace. All the noise, all the urgency of life is contained within that single, silent dot, glowing softly against the infinite backdrop of the cosmic night. It is the ultimate anchor, a small, warm light in the cold dark, a reminder of where we belong in the great, beautiful emptiness. Holding that image of the pale blue dot, the solitary speck of light in the vast theatre of darkness, allow your mind to release the weight of rock and water, becoming lighter, expanding into a state of pure ethereal softness. We drift away from the familiar density of Earth toward a class of worlds that challenge our understanding of substance itself. We approach the super puffs, the cotton candy planets of the Kepler-51 system. These are worlds the size of Jupiter, yet they possess almost no mass at all. They are the ghosts of the planetary family. Visualize a planet that is not made of crushing rock or heavy metal, but of spun sugar and mist. These worlds are vast, puffy spheres of hydrogen and helium, expanded to incredible sizes by the heat of their star, yet they are as light as styrofoam. If you could find a bathtub large enough to hold the galaxy, these planets would not sink. They would bob on the surface like rubber ducks. Imagine descending into their atmosphere. There is no sudden transition, no hard deck of clouds, only a gradual thickening of the pastel-coloured fog. The light here is diffuse, scattering into soft pinks and creams, glowing like a sunrise seen through thick morning mist. It is a world without a centre, a place of softness and suspension, where gravity feels like a gentle suggestion rather than a command. Drifting through this puffy vastness, you feel unburdened, wrapped in a blanket of cosmic vapour, floating in a dream of pure, uncompressed atmosphere. From the gentle, expanding mists of the superpuffs, we allow the current of gravity to pull us toward a more violent and dramatic interaction, a place where a planet is being unmade by its own devotion. We travel to WASP 12b. This is a world that orbits so perilously close to its star that it has lost its spherical shape. It is no longer a round ball, but has been stretched by the immense tidal forces into the shape of an egg. Picture this distended world, glowing hot and angry, its pointed end aiming eternally toward the burning face of its sun. It is a planet in the process of being devoured. As you watch, streams of superheated gas are ripped from its atmosphere, spilling out into space to form a spiraling bridge of matter that feeds into the star. It looks like a great cosmic hourglass, the sands of the planet slowly pouring away into the stellar fire. The colour here is pitch black on the night side, absorbing almost all light, contrasting with the blinding brilliance of the material being stripped away. It is a scene of tragic beauty, a celestial sacrifice where the planet is slowly consumed by the very gravity that holds it in orbit, stretched thin in a final agonizing embrace that will last for millions of years. Leaving the stretched and dying world, we seek a place where the distinction between day and night is not just a matter of light, but of fundamental chemistry. We arrive at WASP 76b, a tidally locked inferno where the weather forecast is more terrifying than any storm on Earth. On the day side, the radiation is so intense that molecules are torn apart, and metals like iron vaporize into a hot, invisible gas. It is a sky of metallic vapour, clear and scorching. But imagine drifting toward the Terminator line, the transition zone where day turns to night, as the superheated winds carry the iron vapour from the blistering day side into the cooler darkness of the night side. The temperature drops precipitously. The iron gas condenses. High above the dark surface, it begins to rain. Visualize this heavy metallic downpour, droplets of molten iron fall from the sky, glowing with a dull red luminescence as they cool, clattering against the rocky ground. It is a world where the evening dew is made of steel, where the storm clouds are forged in a furnace. The sound is a heavy rhythmic drumming, a metallic percussion that rings out in the darkness, a lullaby of industry and fire playing out on a world of eternal evening. We drift away from the violent rains, seeking a geometry that mimics the biology of sight. We encounter a class of worlds known as eyeball planets. These are tidally locked worlds, likely orbiting red dwarf stars, where the freezing night and the burning day create a perfect circular habitable zone in the centre. Picture a world covered in white ice on one side, facing the dark, and a scorched brown desert on the side facing the star. But in the middle, right at the point directly beneath the sun, or perhaps in a ring along the terminator, the ice melts. Visualize a vast circular ocean, deep blue and open, surrounded by a crust of white ice. From space, the planet looks exactly like a giant, unblinking eye staring into the cosmos. The deep blue ocean is the pupil, the surrounding ice is the white of the eye, and the terminator line creates the eyelids. It is a striking, unnerving visage. To float above the centre of the pupil is to float in a tropical sea, the only oasis of water on a frozen world. It feels like the universe is watching you back, a planetary consciousness fixed in a permanent stare, creating a zone of life in the balance between the freeze and the fire. We turn our gaze back to our own solar neighbourhood, to a moon that paints with the colours of a bruised sunset. We return to Io, the innermost moon of Jupiter. We have spoken of its resonance, but now we experience its surface. This is the most volcanically active body in the solar system, a world that turns itself inside out every few millennia. The ground here is not grey rock, but a vibrant, sickly palette of sulphurous yellows, rusty reds, greenish blacks, and frost whites. It looks like a pizza, or a piece of abstract art left in the rain. Imagine standing near the edge of Loki Patera, a massive lava lake that is not made of molten rock, but of molten sulphur. The crust over the lake breaks and founders, sinking into the magma below, revealing fresh, glowing red scars. But the most surreal experience is the snow. When the volcanoes erupt, they spew sulfur dioxide gas high into the vacuum. In the cold of space, this gas freezes instantly and falls back to the surface as a delicate, beautiful frost. Visualize a snowfall of pale yellow flakes coating the hot red lava flows, sublimating instantly where they touch the heat. It is a world of constant renewal, a landscape that is never finished, painted over daily by the fires from below and the frost from above, a masterpiece of violent colour in the dark shadow of Jupiter. From the fire of Io we travel to the fear of Mars. We drift toward Phobos, the larger of the two Martian moons. It is a lumpy, heavily cratered rock shaped like a potato, looking less like a moon and more like an asteroid that was snatched from the dark. Dominating one end is the massive Stickney crater, a scar so large that the impact nearly shattered the moon entirely. Standing inside this crater would feel like standing in a valley that encompasses a third of your world. But the tragedy of Phobos is its trajectory. Unlike our moon, which is drifting away, Phobos is spiralling inward. Every century it draws 6 feet closer to Mars. Visualize this slow, death spiral. It is a moon living on borrowed time. If you were to stand on the surface of Mars and look up, you would see Phobos moving visibly fast across the sky, rising in the west and setting in the east twice a day, casting a frantic, racing shadow. It is nervous energy made manifest. Millions of years from now, it will cross the Roche limit and be torn apart, crumbling into a ring of dust that will encircle the red planet. Floating near it, you feel the tension of a falling stone, a world caught in a slow-motion descent toward its inevitable destruction. Reflecting on the impermanence of moons, we turn our eyes to the most beautiful structure we know, the rings of Saturn. We tend to think of them as eternal, a permanent halo. but in the scope of cosmic time, they are a fleeting breath. We are witnessing ring rain. Under the influence of Saturn's magnetic field, the ice particles of the rings are becoming electrically charged. Visualize these tiny diamonds of ice, suddenly caught by the magnetic field lines. They are lifted out of the ring plane and funneled down along the magnetic highways into Saturn's atmosphere. It is a torrential downpour of dusty ice water, falling at a rate that could fill an Olympic swimming pool every half hour. This means the rings are dying. They are evaporating. 100 million years from now, Saturn may be bald, a simple gold sphere without its crown. To see the rings now is to witness a temporary masterpiece, a blooming flower that will eventually wither. It brings a sense of preciousness to the view, a reminder to cherish the grandeur of the present moment, for even the giants lose their jewellery in the end. Drifting inward from the dissolving rings, we come to a concept of balance that governs the dance of all these worlds. We focus on the barycenter. We often say that planets orbit the Sun, but this is a simplification. In reality, the planets and the Sun orbit a common centre of gravity, a balance point between their masses. For most planets, this point is deep inside the Sun. But Jupiter is so massive that its balance point with the Sun lies just above the Sun's surface. Visualize the solar system not as a set of circles around a fixed centre, but as a wobbly dance. The Sun is not standing still, it is pirouetting. Because of Jupiter's pull, the Sun wobbles in a small circle, spinning around a point in empty space. It looks like a heavy parent swinging a small child around by the hands. The parent leans back and circles slightly to maintain balance. This wobble is how we find planets around other stars. We watch the star dancing with its invisible partner. Floating at this barycenter, you are at the true pivot point of the system, the invisible fulcrum upon which the giants and the star balance their weight, a silent point of equilibrium in the void. From the balance of mass, we shift to the angle of light. We contemplate obliquity, the axial tilt that gives us the rhythm of the seasons. Most planets do not spin perfectly upright. Earth leans, Mars leans, Saturn leans. This tilt is the breath of the planet. Imagine the Earth as it travels around the Sun, maintaining this 23-degree angle. Visualize the consequence of this lean, the slow, majestic seesaw of light. As the planet moves, the northern hemisphere tilts toward the star, drinking in the warmth, basking in long days and short nights. 6 months later, it tilts away, retreating into the cool shadows of winter. This is not just a change in temperature, it is the heartbeat of the biosphere. You can see the green wave of vegetation pulsing up and down the continents with the rhythm of the tilt. Without this lean, the world would be static, a place of eternal, unchanging climate. The tilt brings variation, the drama of the thaw and the freeze. It is a cosmic nod, a bowing of the planet's head that invites the changing of the guard, creating the passage of time as we feel it in the air on our skin. Finally, we expand the timeline of this tilt to witness the slow, gyroscopic wobble known as precession. Just as a spinning top wobbles slowly as it rotates, the Earth's axis wobbles in a great circle over a period of 26,000 years. This means that the North Star is not a permanent fixture. Visualize the axis of the Earth like a laser pointer, tracing a slow circle in the northern sky. Today it points to Polaris, our guiding light. But let your mind drift back in time to the building of the pyramids. The sky looked different then. The pole star was Thuban, a star in the constellation Draco. Drift forward 12,000 years, and the axis will point to the brilliant blue star Vega. The constellations themselves are slowly shifting their positions in relation to the seasons. This is the great year of the Earth. To watch this is to watch the slow drift of the celestial ceiling, a reminder that even the fixed stars are transient guides. We are on a wobbling ship sailing through a sea of time, and the beacon we steer by changes with the slow, deep breathing of the ages. As we rest in the knowledge of the Earth's slow, gyroscopic wobble, we begin to understand that this movement is not merely a geometric curiosity, but the conductor of a great climatic symphony. We drift deeper into the concept of the Milankovitch cycles. These are the long rhythmic breaths of our planet, the interplay of the Earth's orbit stretching, its axis tilting, and its top wobbling. Together, they conspire to decide when the ice will march and when it will retreat. Visualize the Earth over hundreds of thousands of years. It is like watching a lung slowly inhaling and exhaling. When the orbit stretches into an oval and the tilt is just right, the summers become cool, failing to melt the winter snow. Layer by layer, year after year, the white sheets of ice creep down from the poles, covering the continents in a silent frozen blanket. This is the inhalation of the Ice Age. Then, as the celestial gears shift and the sunlight strikes more directly, the ice pulls back, retreating to the mountaintops, releasing the land to bloom again. To float in this timeline is to see the planet not as a static rock, but as a living organism pulsating with the rhythm of the cosmos, the glaciers moving like slow tides in response to the distant silent tug of the sun and the moon. Travelling back even further, beyond the cycles of ice, we encounter a mystery that warms the heart of planetary history. We contemplate the faint young sun paradox. When the solar system was in its infancy, our sun was a smaller, quieter star, shining with only 70% of the brightness it possesses today. By all simple calculations, the early Earth should have been a frozen ball of ice, a white marble locked in a permanent deep freeze. But the geological record tells a different story. It whispers of liquid water, of warm oceans, of life beginning to stir. Visualize this ancient Earth. It is wrapped in a thick, cozy blanket of greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide and methane poured out by volcanoes. The sky might have looked different, perhaps a hazy orange or a deep cloudy grey, acting as a thermal lid. Despite the weak sun, the planet held its heat close, swaddling itself against the cold of space. It is a comforting image. A young, fragile world protected by its own atmosphere, keeping the cradle warm so that the first delicate sparks of biology could ignite in the dark, dark seas. As we look up from that ancient warm surface, we see a moon that looks very different from the silver companion we know tonight. We're witnessing the late heavy bombardment. There was a time, long after the planets formed, when the solar system underwent a violent reorganization. The migration of the gas giants, Jupiter and Saturn, disturbed the peace of the asteroid belt and the comet clouds, sending a storm of rocks plunging inward. Visualize the night sky of that era. It is a shooting gallery. Meteors are not rare wishes, but a constant rain of fire. We look at the moon, and we see the formation of its face. The great dark patches we see today, the eyes of the man in the moon, were carved out during this time. Massive asteroids slammed into the lunar crust, punching holes so deep they cracked the mantle. It was a time of fire and chaos, a sculpting of the worlds, yet there is a strange peace in knowing that this violence is finished. The craters we see now are silent scars, the healed wounds of a youth long past, standing as still, grey monuments to the time when the heavens fell. Focusing on those dark patches, the lunar maria or seas, we drift closer to understand their deception. From Earth, they look like bodies of water, calm and deep. But as we float over the sea of tranquility, or the ocean of storms, we realise they are seas of stone. After the heavy bombardment cracked the moon's shell, molten lava from deep within bled out to fill the lowlands. Imagine the sight of these glowing rivers of basalt flowing across the moon billions of years ago. They were vast, fiery lakes that slowly cooled, solidifying into smooth, dark plains of rock. Because they are younger than the highlands, they have fewer craters, creating the illusion of smooth water. Touch the surface with your mind. It is not wet, but it is smooth, a fine-grained, dark grey basalt, like the cooled lava flows of Hawaii. These are the frozen floods of the past, a permanent shadow cast not by a cloud, but by the chemistry of the rock itself, creating the contrast that allows us to see faces and rabbits in the moon, a Rorschach test painted in ancient lava. We often think of the moon as our only companion, a solitary partner in our orbit. But if we look with the eyes of gravity, we find that Earth is not quite as lonely as we believe. We discover the quasi-satellites, the hidden dancers like Cruithne. This is a small asteroid, perhaps only 3 miles wide, that shares our journey around the Sun. It does not orbit Earth in a simple circle. Instead, it performs a complex kidney bean-shaped dance that takes it close to us and then far away. Visualize this shy companion. It is a tumbling rock, dark and irregular, moving in resonance with our world. From the perspective of Earth, it seems to trace a strange horseshoe path in the sky, drifting ahead of us, then turning around and drifting behind. It never comes too close, respecting a gravitational buffer zone, but it never leaves. It has been dancing with us for millennia and will continue for centuries more. It is a reminder that there are hidden relationships in the void, silent partners that walk the same path we do, keeping pace with us in the dark, unseen but faithful to the rhythm of our year. Leaving the orbital dance of Earth, we let the solar wind carry us outward again to the rusted deserts of Mars. We travel to the South Pole, to the permanent ice cap, to witness a phenomenon that looks organic but is purely geological. We see the spiders of Mars. These are not living creatures but areniform terrain, strange branching channels carved into the surface that look exactly like black spiders sprawling across the ice. Imagine the arrival of the Martian spring. The pole is covered in a layer of translucent dry ice, frozen carbon dioxide. As the weak sun warms the ice from above, it penetrates the surface and heats the ground underneath. The ice sublimates at the base, turning directly into gas, building up immense pressure beneath the sheet. Suddenly, the ice cracks. Jets of carbon dioxide gas erupt like geysers, carrying dark dust and sand from below, spraying it out onto the white ice. As the dust settles, it forms these dark, spindly, spider-like shapes. It is a landscape of active, breathing geology, a world where the ground itself exhales in black bursts, painting abstract art on the frozen canvas of the pole. As the day ends on this dusty world, we turn our gaze to the horizon to witness the Martian sunset. On Earth, our thick atmosphere scatters blue light during the day and lets the red wavelengths pass through at sunset, giving us blue skies and red evenings. On Mars, the physics is reversed by the fine, iron-rich dust suspended in the thin air. The dust absorbs blue light during the day, giving the sky a butterscotch or pinkish tint. But visualize the moment the sun dips low. The light must travel through more of the atmosphere, and the dust scatters the red light away, allowing the blue light to penetrate forward. The area around the setting sun glows with a cool, serene blue. Imagine standing on a red dune, watching a sun that looks smaller than the one you know, sinking into a halo of azure and sapphire. It is a moment of cool tones in a hot-coloured world, a soothing visual in verse that signals the coming of the incredibly cold Martian night. It is a sunset of ice colours, a quiet blue farewell to the rusty day. Drifting outward from the blue twilight of Mars, we return to the court of the king Jupiter. We look past the great red spot to the southern hemisphere, to a feature of exquisite elegance known as the String of Pearls. These are a series of massive counter-rotating storms, appearing as brilliant white ovals arranged in a perfect line, spaced evenly apart like beads on a necklace. Visualize these storms, each one larger than the Earth, spinning clockwise in the creamy, chaotic atmosphere. They are white because they are high-altitude clouds, towering thunderheads of ammonia ice that reflect the sunlight purely. They stand out against the darker, lower clouds like polished gems. To float above them is to see a display of atmospheric jewellery, a bracelet of storms wrapped around the planet's girth. They are dynamic, constantly changing, merging and reforming, yet retaining their orderly spacing. It is a display of turbulence finding a pattern, a rhythmic beauty in the violence of the gas giant's weather, spinning silently in a row. Moving from the pearls of Jupiter to the rings of Saturn, we look for ghosts. We encounter the spokes. These are mysterious, dark, wedge-shaped markings that appear on the rings, rotating with the planet. They are not solid objects, but shadows that seem to defy gravity. They appear suddenly, stretch out across the rings for thousands of miles, and then fade away just as quickly, like breath on a window pane. Imagine floating just above the ring plane. The rings are a glittering river of ice. Suddenly a dark smudge forms, hovering slightly above the ice. These are likely microscopic dust particles, charged by Saturn's magnetic field and levitated away from the larger ring boulders by electrostatic repulsion. They are dust clouds floating over the ice field. They remind us of the spokes of a bicycle wheel turning in the dark. They are ephemeral, ghostly features that show us the invisible hand of electromagnetism, painting temporary shadows on the most beautiful structure in the solar system. We venture further out to the strange, toppled world of Uranus. We have spoken of its role, but now we feel its magnetic heartbeat. We discover the tilted magnetosphere. On Earth, our magnetic North Pole is roughly aligned with our geographic North Pole. But on Uranus, the magnetic centre is shifted far away from the planet's core, and the magnetic axis is tilted 60 degrees away from the axis of rotation. Visualize the result of this misalignment as the planet spins. The magnetic field creates a wild, tumbling motion, like a strobe light flashing in the dark. It does not spin smoothly like a top. It corkscrews through space. As Uranus rotates, its magnetic tail twists into a long, spiraling shape behind it, like a corkscrew pasta made of energy. Floating in this field, your compass would spin wildly, unable to find a steady north. It is a chaotic, rhythmic thrashing of invisible forces, a magnet that opens and closes to the solar wind with every rotation. It is a reminder that nature loves variety, creating a world that is not only rolling on its side but dancing a wild magnetic jig as it sleeps in the cold outer dark. Drifting from the chaotic magnets of the ice giants, we seek a connection between the worlds, a mechanism that allows life to travel. We contemplate the theory of lithopanspermia. It is the idea that rocks can be arcs. When a massive asteroid strikes a planet like Mars or Earth, it can blast rocks off the surface with such force that they escape gravity and float into space. Visualize a piece of rock blasted from the early, wet Mars, drifting through the vacuum for millions of years. Deep inside this stone, shielded from the radiation and the cold, are microscopic stowaways, bacteria or hardy spores, sleeping in a state of suspended animation. Eventually, gravity pulls this rock toward Earth. It streaks through the sky as a meteor, the outer layers burning away, but the core remaining cool. It lands in a primitive ocean. The stone cracks open. The sleepers wake. It is a profound thought, that life may not be unique to one world, but is shared between them, passed like a torch in the dark. We may be Martians, or our neighbours may be Earthlings, all of us connected by the debris of ancient impacts, travellers on granite ships sailing the interplanetary sea. Thinking of these granite ships sailing through the void, we realise that impact is not merely a method of transport, but a creator of resonance. We turn our attention back to the moon, to a secret hidden in its geology. When the Apollo astronauts left the lunar surface, they jettisoned their ascent modules, allowing them to crash back down onto the grey dust. The result was startling. The moon did not thud like a bag of wet sand. It vibrated. Visualize a great bronze bell hanging in a silent cathedral. When struck, it holds the note, singing for a long time. The moon behaves in the same way. Because it is dry and rigid, much like stone, and lacks the dampening effect of water or tectonic plates, the shock waves from an impact do not fade quickly. Instead, they ripple through the entire sphere. Following one of the Apollo impacts, the moon rang like a bell for over an hour. Imagine standing on that silent, airless world, feeling the ground beneath your boots humming with a secret vibration, a geological song that resonates through the core, trembling long after the event has passed. It is a world of deep, sustained memory, where every touch sets off a shiver that refuses to fade, holding the energy of the collision in a long, silent sustain. From the vibrating crust of the moon, we travel inward to the sun-scorched surface of Mercury to witness the scars of age. We have spoken of its tail and its temperature, but now we look at its skin. Mercury is shrinking. As the planet's massive iron core slowly cools over billions of years, it contracts, pulling the surface inward. But the crust is hard and brittle, so it cannot shrink smoothly. Instead, it buckles. Picture a grape drying in the sun, its skin folding into wrinkles to become a raisin. This is the fate of Mercury. The surface is crisscrossed by lobate scarps, massive cliffs of thrust faults that can be a mile high and hundreds of miles long. Visualize standing at the base of one of these cliffs. It is a wall of grey rock that has been shoved upward, a wrinkle in the planetary skin. These are not ancient scars from the dawn of time. Some are geologically young, suggesting the planet is still shrinking, still settling. It creates a feeling of slow, inexorable compression, a world that is wrapping itself tighter and tighter against the cold of space, closing in on its own heart as the internal fires fade. Leaving the wrinkling iron world, we drift to the thick, choking atmosphere of Venus to experience a paradox of speed. The planet itself is sluggish, rotating so slowly that a person walking briskly could almost keep up with the sunset. But the air above is in a frantic rush. We are witnessing super-rotation. Imagine floating in the upper cloud deck 30 miles above the surface. While the ground below turns at a snail's pace, the winds here are screaming at 200 miles per hour, circling the entire planet in just 4 Earth days. It is as if the atmosphere has detached itself from the planet, spinning wildly on its own accord. The entire atmosphere is a single, continuous hurricane. To drift here is to be caught in a global conveyor belt of sulfuric acid clouds, a golden white blur of motion that never ceases. It creates a dizzying sensation of separation, where the air refuses to wait for the rock, racing ahead in a desperate howling loop around the slow, hot sphere. We let the winds of Venus fling us outward, past the blue marble of Earth, landing softly in the red dust of Mars in the Meridiani Planum. Here, scattered across the rusty soil, we find millions of tiny, peculiar objects. They look like scattered ball bearings. These are the Martian blueberries. Visualize kneeling in the red sand and picking one up. It is a small, hard sphere, greyish-blue in colour, perfectly round and smooth. These are concretions of hematite, a mineral that typically forms in the presence of water. They are the pearls of Mars. Billions of years ago, groundwater soaked through these rocks, precipitating iron minerals that grew layer by layer into these beads. As the softer rock around them eroded away in the wind, the hard spheres were left behind, rolling free on the surface. Running your hand through the sand here would feel like sifting through a collection of marbles. They are tactile proof of a wet past, tiny stone seeds that tell the story of ancient aquifers, now dry and exposed to the thin, cold wind. Drifting from the red desert to the asteroid belt, we return to the dwarf planet Ceres, the queen of the rocks. We approach the Ocata crater, a large depression in the dark surface, but inside, glowing with an ethereal luminescence, are the faculae, bright white spots that puzzled astronomers for years. Imagine descending into the crater. The ground is pitch black, but the centre is paved with a brilliant reflective white material. It looks like snow, but it is not cold to the touch. It is salt, specifically sodium carbonate. This is the residue of a cryovolcano. A slushy, salty brine from deep underground erupted onto the surface, exposing the water to the vacuum. The water sublimated away into space, leaving the salt behind as a shiny crust. It creates a stark, high-contrast landscape, a salt flat on a dark world. Standing here, The reflected sunlight is dazzling, a white beacon in the grey gloom of the asteroid belt. It is a reminder that even dead rocks can bleed, and when they do, they leave behind crystal scars that glitter like diamonds in the rough. We push through the belt, returning to the giant Jupiter. We have travelled to its clouds, its storms, and its metallic ocean, but now we travel to the very centre, to the core. For decades, we believed Jupiter had a small, solid rock at its heart, like a cherry pit. But the gravity data whispers a different story. The core is fuzzy. It is diluted. Visualize a sugar cube dissolving in a cup of hot tea. The edges soften, the solid form breaks down, and it spreads out into the liquid. This is what has happened to Jupiter's heart. The immense pressure and heat, combined with the churn of the metallic hydrogen, have dissolved the original rocky core. It is now a diffuse region of heavy elements mixed with gas, a slushy, indistinct centre that spans half the planet's radius. There is no solid ground to stand on, not even at the very bottom. It is a world without a floor, a gradient of increasing density that never quite becomes rock. It brings a feeling of bottomlessness, a realization that the giant is fluid all the way down, a churning ocean of chemistry with no anchor. From the liquid heart of Jupiter, we fly to the strange monochromatic world of Saturn's moon, Iapetus. We have seen its two-tone colour, but as we approach the equator, we see a feature that defies explanation. A massive ridge, a chain of mountains, runs perfectly along the equator, wrapping around the entire moon. Imagine a walnut. The ridge is the seam that holds the two halves together. These mountains are not small. They are 12 miles high, taller than Everest, and they rise steeply from the surrounding plains. The slope is precipitous, a sheer wall of ice and rock standing against the stars. Visualize flying along this spine. It looks artificial, like a weld mark on a manufactured world, or the result of a collapsing ring system that rained down in a straight line. The shadow cast by this ridge stretches for hundreds of miles, a long dark band cutting the moon in half. It gives the world a geometric, constructed feel, a towering fortification built by gravity and time, dividing the north from the south with a wall of impossible height. Leaving the ridge, we drift to another of Saturn's oddities, the moon Hyperion. This is not a sphere. It looks like a sponge or a piece of coral. It is a chaotic, tumbling world, deeply pitted with craters that are incredibly deep and sharp-edged. Because the moon is so porous, mostly empty space inside, impactors don't crater it in the normal way. They compress the surface, punching deep holes without scattering debris. Visualize the texture of this world. It is yellow and tan, like an old sea sponge floating in the dark. If you were to land on it, you would feel incredibly light, as the gravity is weak. But looking around, you would be surrounded by dark, ominous pits, honeycombing the ground. And there is a strange energy here. As Hyperion tumbles chaotically through Saturn's magnetosphere, its surface builds up a massive static electric charge. The dust here might levitate, clinging to your suit. It is a nervous, erratic world, stumbling through its orbit, a piece of cosmic flotsam that has been punched and pitted until it is little more than a lacy skeleton of ice. We move outward again, past the calm blue of Uranus to the deep azure of Neptune. We have noted its winds and its dark spots, but there is a mystery in its temperature. Neptune is an ice giant sitting far from the sun, receiving very little warmth, yet it radiates 2.6 times more energy than it receives from the star. It is glowing with internal heat. Imagine the sensation of this warmth. It is not a surface heat, but a deep, gravitational churning. The planet is slowly contracting, the matter falling inward, releasing gravitational potential energy as heat. This heat rises from the core, driving the incredible winds we spoke of earlier. To float near Neptune is to be near a dying ember that refuses to go cold. It is a world that generates its own weather, independent of the sun. It feels alive, self-sufficient, a blue engine humming in the dark, powered by the slow compression of its own mass, keeping its atmosphere churning violently despite the freezing stillness of the outer solar system. Finally, we pull our consciousness back from the planets, back from the solar system, expanding our view until the Sun is just one of billions of stars in the Milky Way, and the Milky Way is just one of billions of galaxies. We drift into the largest structure of all, the cosmic web. Visualize the universe not as a random scattering of galaxies, but as a vast three-dimensional spiderweb made of dark matter and gas. The galaxies are like drops of morning dew clinging to the silk threads. Between the threads are the great voids, the empty bubbles of nothingness. We are floating in one of the filaments, a river of galaxies flowing through the dark. The structure is delicate, lacy, and infinitely complex. It looks like the neural network of a brain, or the veins of a leaf. To rest in this image is to feel the ultimate connection. We are not isolated. We are part of a strand, a thread of light stretching across the universe. The gravity of invisible dark matter guides the flow of everything, weaving the cosmos into a tapestry of light and shadow. It is a vision of unity, a grand, silent architecture that holds us all, a web of infinite size where every star, every planet, and every dream is caught in the same beautiful glowing design. And in this web we rest, suspended in the great glowing filament of home, surrounded by the silent voids. We find our place in the dream of the cosmos. Good night. From the grand glowing filaments of the cosmic web, we finally turn our gaze inward, to the most intimate and profound secret of all, the realization that brings our journey full circle. We contemplate the stardust connection. Look at your hand. Flex your fingers. Feel the beat of your heart in your chest. We've spent this night traveling to distant worlds, witnessing rains of diamonds and storms of glass, but the materials that make those wonders are the very same materials that make you. The nitrogen in your DNA, the calcium in your teeth, the iron in your blood, the carbon in your apple pie were not created on Earth. They were forged in the crushing, fiery hearts of giant stars that lived and died billions of years before our sun was born. Visualize the ancient universe. It was once only hydrogen and helium, a simple, sterile gas. But inside the crucibles of the first stars, the alchemy of creation began. These stars fused atoms together, squeezing them until they became heavier, creating carbon, oxygen, and iron. When these giants reached the end of their lives, they did not simply fade, they exploded in glorious supernovae. Visualize that moment of destruction, a blast of light that outshone the galaxy, scattering these new heavy elements across the cosmos like seeds in the wind. You are the harvest of that planting. Every atom in your body is billions of years old. You're not merely a visitor in this universe. You're a piece of it, a collection of ancient stardust that has come together for a brief, beautiful moment to be alive, to be conscious, to look back at the stars from which you came and wonder. To know this is to know that you are never truly alone, for you are the universe experiencing itself, a child of the stars wrapped in the skin of the earth, holding the history of the cosmos in the palm of your hand. And now, the journey slows. The stars we have visited begin to dim, their fires softening into a gentle rhythmic glow that matches the deepening cadence of your breath. We have travelled from the scorching surface of Mercury to the frozen silence of the Oort Cloud, from the diamond rains of Neptune to the quiet red forests of distant worlds. But now, the ship of your imagination is turning toward the harbour. The gravity of sleep is pulling you gently, not with the force of a black hole, but with the warmth of a heavy blanket. The sights you have seen are fading into the velvet dark, storing themselves away in the deep library of your mind. You do not need to carry them anymore. They are part of you now, woven into the fabric of your dreams. Feel the weight of your body sinking deeper into the mattress, as if you are settling into the soft, warm sands of a cosmic shore. The noise of the universe quiets down to a singular, low hum, the sound of peace, the sound of stillness. There is nothing left to see, nothing left to understand. There is only the dark, the warmth, and the drift. You are safe here, floating in the great silent void of rest, supported by the invisible web of the night. Let go of the thoughts, let go of the images, let go of the self. You are drifting on a river that flows toward the center of sleep, a current of pure relaxation carrying you away from the waking world. The lights are out, the stars are watching, the silence is complete, and now 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now, good night.